Oh.
What is going on, everybody? It is episode 518 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, crisis actors. It's Mary. That was a very dramatic countdown that we just got that you didn't get to hear.
So go! 1, 3, 2, 1, let's
I'm
go!
a little on edge. I think we're all a little bit on edge today. And Sara is with us. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm ready. You know, I think I'm ready to go.
I'm the opposite of okay.
That was
so
a wake-up call.
Yeah, it
necessarily,
was very abrasive.
I'm not on edge. What it is I overslept today. And I mean, have you ever had that thing where you sit up too fast and your brain gets really, really foggy and your eyes kind of glaze over and you're like that's how I felt.
It means
since
you're
I
low
woke
blood
up.
sugar.
Well, that's
right?
something I gotta work on then. I gotta fix that. Too bad I should have eaten more before
Hopefully
the
your
show.
monster will help.
That's yes. So we got a bunch of stuff to get into today, and hopefully with my low blood sugar, we will manage to make it through it without me stumbling over my words too much. We're going to get into the fact that Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais are once again atop the Netflix charts, and the media, as they do, have problems with this because they deign to criticize those who are no longer allowed to be criticized. So we're going to get into that. There's also this video from this ex-child actor named Arden Young who exposes a lot of the predatory practices that go on in Hollywood, things to do with child acting teachers, things like that. So we're going to talk about it. It's a really interesting video. So there's also, if you guys have ever watched this channel, there's a group called the USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative, which is as stupid as it sounds.
It's kind of the bane of our existence.
Yeah, they do their yearly breakdowns of just how racist and sexist Hollywood is by the numbers, right? And so every year this is what's changed and this is all the work we have left to do. Well, they have released their yearly report, and what they've concluded is that all of those changes that were made after George Floyd, all of their pledges to hire more women and people of color, well, it was really just performative, to which I say, shocking. So we're going to get into that. There's a lot of details and numbers there, which I find kind of fascinating. Also, there's this story about how supposedly Gen Z is aging faster than millennials. And Mary, in particular, has she's got beef with this claim.
I disagree because, as we'll show you from examples of high school grad videos past, in the 80s, 90s, the 2000s, I just look at them and I see that they look so much more adult than Gen Z teenagers look today. But for the influencer celebrity class, it might be true. Looking at, Millie Bobby Brown, for instance, is just like, definitely she looks more adult.
She looks permanently 27 to me. She does. So we got that. We got a bunch of other stuff. Before we get started, guys, would you please go ahead and hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed already. We have passed 91,000 subscribers. We are very closely approaching the 100,000 subscriber mark, the completely arbitrary 100,000 subscriber mark that we are very excited to reach because we want to get the play button.
We want that really arbitrary play button.
We do.
And when we get it, we're gonna cut it in half with a hot knife.
Yes. So we know we could do? We could do those videos. It's like, is it play button or cake? Right? You see those?
I don't know if we have a cake decorator to make us a play button cake.
I've got a problem with that though. I take umbrage with those videos because it's never the thing. It's always cake. It's never riveting. I know it's going to be cake every time.
It's never actually a turtle.
Like I was watching the other, it's like steak or cake, and it's never steak. It's always cake. I'm like, why am I watching this? There's no drama.
You make a really good point.
There's no drama there. You're just showing off.
Supposed to, every time you click on the video, you're supposed to be like, that's definitely a steak. Like it has to be.
Supposed to be shocked.
It never is. So I take a problem with that. So guys, do that. Remember, all super chats $20 and over. We will interrupt the discussion. We will reach them. We will read them right then and there. And then we will do our very best to get back on topic as soon as we are done. And we'll keep up with that. We got a little bit behind yesterday, but we caught back up. So if you ladies are ready, we can just go ahead and get started. Mary, are you ready?
I'm ready. Rachel Zegler sucks.
Yes, I'm ready.
And Rachel Zegler sucks. Right, Sarah?
Yes, right. Correct,
okay,
sure.
Fine. Let's go ahead and get started then. If you don't know, there's this thing coming out. It's the Epstein client list, which you shouldn't trust because if the media is telling you that it's coming out, it's probably fake anyways.
So it's not actually out yet?
I thought it comes out like early this month or like.
And everyone's like, what exactly are we waiting for?
I'm sure Trump is on. Trump's going to be on it.
There's like some handwritten document that was released, and I don't know. Has been like.
Well, what happened was Aaron Rodgers kind of accused Jimmy Kimmel of this. And Jimmy Kimmel's like, I'll see you in court, jerk.
Well, what did Aaron Rodgers say exactly?
So it says the late night talk show host is now threatening the New York Jets quarterback with legal action after he suggested on live TV that Jimmy might be one of Epstein's associates.
Well, Jimmy freaked out and tweeted the following. He said, "Dear AA hole," I guess
that's clever.
Yeah. "For the record, I've not met, flown with, visited, or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein, nor will you find my name on any list other than the clearly phony nonsense that soft-brained wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality. Your reckless words put my family in danger. Keep it up, and we will debate the facts further in court." So he's not threatening, but he's threatening to sue.
What, for defamation?
The list, once it comes out, isn't going to be exhaustive anyway.
This is also, if you want to know how the media frames these things, anytime Epstein gets brought up, this photo is shown. Every time.
Yeah.
There's multiple Epstein
Does
documentaries.
TMZ hate Trump?
I don't think they're fans of him. But multiple documentaries have been made about Epstein, and they always show pictures of him and Trump on there, which is, fair.
But every time that Harvey Weinstein gets brought up, we don't see pictures of him with Oprah.
Nope. It's funny about that too, because it's like I always wonder, how much do people actually look into this stuff, right? Like, I'm just kind of taking people at their word that they say, Trump admitted, he's like, yes, I didn't fly to his island, but I did catch a flight back to New York or something like that. On his jet or something like that. But he's also been heavily critical of Epstein. So it's like, I just saw that, when all of that stuff started coming out, both sides of the aisle started using him to be they'd find photos of people they don't like, find a photo with them with Epstein, and be like, see, they're guilty by association, which is why I don't really ever take the people who reference Epstein's flight logs all that seriously, because without further proof of it, did they visit the island? What is it, right? If you're going to say Trump's name on there doesn't count, then who else's name doesn't count?
Well, I was looking at the redacted documents, and the one name I remember seeing repeated over and over was Alan Dershowitz.
Yeah. Oh, and Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
His name's on there 50 times or something like that. That's okay. Fine.
I'm just
right. But if
yesterday I looked at the photos of Bill Clinton creepily leering at Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
They were at a funeral when that happened.
Yeah. It was
whose funeral was that?
Who in the chat remembers that?
A funeral is not the place to be leering.
Well, you shouldn't leer at all, but
you shouldn't leer at all, but especially not at a funeral.
Bill Clinton will leer anywhere. He'll leer in the White House.
Is he capable of not leering?
Does anybody remember what funeral? It was was it like Aretha Franklin?
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah.
She was singing at the funeral.
She was singing at the funeral.
Yeah, and that's the way it is. Bill Clinton he's a leerer. Right. I did like that Monica Lewinsky managed to turn that into her own type of
victim narrative.
Well, no. I like that when all this stuff started coming out about abuse in the workplace and stuff like that, she would get involved in the conversations and stuff like that.
She was huge in the beginning of MeToo. Yeah. She posted a hashtag MeToo in 2017.
When it first came out, was she humiliated though, or was she empowered?
That was the late 90s, right? It was a different time for that type of thing. I
think it wasn't until later.
Yeah. It's really funny. One of my favorite memes that still goes around is the picture of Bill Clinton sitting at the White House desk like this and says, only people under a certain age will know there's two people in this photo. But that might be one of the main stories as to why Hillary was such an unpopular person, is how she handled that situation.
How was she supposed to handle it?
Not that. I don't know. I think a lot of people expected her to divorce him. I think if that happened
for
today,
Hillary, it's with what she knows about Bill Clinton, that's the least of her worries, right?
Yeah.
So
didn't they leave the White House millions of dollars in debt and steal a bunch of furniture that they then had to return afterwards?
What?
I didn't know that.
I heard that recently.
Jamie, look that up. I need somebody to fact check that. Is that true? How could the Clintons leave?
They took the toasters and everything.
I heard they took furniture.
They're just they grab the silverware out of the drawers and stuff like that, and how does a president leave in debt, right? You just be able to. Their speaking engagements are upwards to the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It should get them out of debt very, very fast. Now, getting out of the debt of favors to people, that's a different story.
Yeah, perhaps that's what it was.
But yeah, somebody let me know. Did they leave in debt? I'd like to know. All right, guys. Does anybody here know who Paula Abdul is? Mary didn't know who she was outside of
American Idol. I only knew her based on her being an American Idol judge in the 2000s.
Well,
but I know that she's a singer.
She was very big in the 80s.
Yeah.
And she's suing Nigel Lithgow.
An executive on the show,
yes.
right? You said that this is of the Me Too variety where, they kind of were buddies after the alleged incident.
From what I was reading when I was reading about this on Twitter, like they ended up having dinner at his house after the alleged incident, but there's multiple incidents here. Yeah. And now 2 other women have come out and said that this dude did this to them as well. Unfortunately,
there's always the follow-up stories.
They're Jane Doe, like they have Jane Doe and then initials for both of them. And I'm sorry, but I'm to that point where unless you're willing to put your name to the document, I'm not really gonna hear
we have a $20 from Max Destruction Ken. Said, as I saw someone do yesterday, I'd rather my advert funds go to PCC. New episode of my podcast Max Destruction dropped today. Dirty Harry against Kmart, Punisher, 1989. Thanks all.
Max, in the chat, let them know where they can find the podcast. Is it on YouTube? Is it on Spotify? Just put it in the chat so people can see.
Thanks for contributing your ad money to the show.
Let us know where it's available so people can go check it out, man. But yeah, it says she filed the lawsuit on Friday in LA County. And
I guess you can just advertise your stuff on PCC as long as you're okay with it being sandwiched in between talking about sexual assault.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So the first assault happened during one of American Idol's initial seasons, she says, while they were on the road for auditions. She claims they got into an elevator at their hotel. Once the doors closed, he shoved her against the wall, and such things happened. Graphic details.
Bad stuff. He
grabbed her by the.
He doesn't look like a pusher against the wall person, but that's
it could be anyone.
It could be anyone.
Who's the guy on her right in that photo?
Jason Derulo.
Jason Derulo?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry that I know that.
And then they were on So You Think You Can Dance years later.
Yeah.
So it's just, why continue working with someone that is like that?
So it says he invited her to his house to discuss work opportunities, and she accepted because she thought it was a professional situation. However, she claimed that evening ended with Lithgow forcing himself on top of her while she was on the couch and trying to kiss her in the suite. She says he was telling her they would make an excellent power couple. I'm just picturing him saying this in just the creepiest voice you can imagine.
We got a $20 from That Stanza-tastic. OMG, you're back, Papa PCC. You said you were going to get milk and cigarettes and were gone for so long. Glad you're back. Please don't leave again. You're welcome.
Look, it was I love the meme it says when he gets drafted into the NBA and it shows a guy with a thing of milk and he walks in the door. It's but yeah, so for this.
Okay, why she says she thought it was a professional situation that was happening at his house. Why would you think that?
Well, think
why would you think that?
Think Aaron Taylor Johnson going to try out for a movie at the female director's house.
For Aaron Taylor Johnson, at the time he was 18 or 19 years old, right? I would probably put it past him to have the reasoning capabilities. But Paula Abdul, at this point in 2015, she has been a grown woman and been in this industry for decades. And she had this experience with him before where he was forcing himself on her. Why would you think that it's a professional meeting that's happening at his house and that he would be honest about that? Why?
See, I'm gonna take the rosier complexion of this story, which is that if she's dumb enough to believe that going to his house for a professional meeting was actually going to be professional, maybe that means that there's a litany of meetings that were at people's houses that were professional.
Maybe that's common practice. But I would just say, maybe Paula Abdul has limited agency.
$20 super chat here from Gordon Shumway says the Clintons were almost broke when they left the White House. The legal fees from the Whitewater scandal drained them. Thank God for the Clinton Foundation, or else they might still be broke. Yes, thank God. How would Chelsea have gone to college? Right? How would they have sent Chelsea to college? Okay, so Mary, limited agency. Expand on that.
I got in a big row on Twitter for saying this, but I don't know if YouTube is friendly to these types of ideas, so I'll tread lightly. But it's my polemic that on average women have limited agency. What would you say about this, Sarah?
Can you elaborate on what you mean by limited agency?
I just think that, especially in situations like this, or something that any normal person would experience, like you're at a bar and you see, you know, a female friend of yours is talking to this guy and he's clearly making her uncomfortable, but she's being polite about it and laughing because she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I see that as a trait that a lot of women have. I would say this is an average trait that most women have, that they're not able to advocate for themselves. They're not able to start confrontations.
Yeah.
They don't have that ability.
Yeah.
Unless they actively try to cultivate it, which is really difficult. And that's, I believe, a contributing factor to why a lot of these Me Too accusations arise. Because in one person's eyes, it could have been a totally benign situation where they didn't think they were victimizing or violating someone at all.
Right.
But in her eyes, she was like fearing for her life, like didn't know how to escape.
Yeah.
Thought it was entirely dangerous and violating and traumatizing and all of that. But she didn't have the mental capability to advocate for herself or say no.
I mean, going over there in the first place kind of shows that.
Like, do you have basic reasoning capabilities? Because if I were in this situation, I would be like, okay, had a bad experience with this guy before, not going to do that again. But it seems like a lot of people are lacking this basic, this basic awareness of their situation. Like, this is situational awareness 101, right? Like, this isn't even someone you just met. This isn't a stranger. I'm just saying it's telling that these claims keep on multiplying for so many different women in the entertainment industry. And is it an entertainment industry thing? Absolutely. Julia Fox will tell you otherwise. She was like making this TikTok where she was like, you'll find predators everywhere. If you go to culinary school, there will be predators there. It's not a Hollywood thing. She's wrong about that. There's definitely more degeneracy and predatory behavior in Hollywood. But it's also, it makes me wonder, is this just a general problem that women have?
Too high on the agreeable scale.
Yes.
Not high enough on the ability to defend yourself scale.
Low assertiveness.
I also put it as a thing where it's like, as long as society shields you from the consequences of these actions and tells you it's not your fault, you're never going to make the changes needed to actually get yourself out of those situations.
Correct.
In a lot of ways. We got a $20 super chat here from the Underp Taker. Says, limited agency is what you say when you want an out from being an adult and the expectation of handling your own mess or dealing with the consequences. Must be nice to be an equal citizen in all regards, except when it sucks. I don't disagree with the notion there. I think part of the reason why there is such a vitriol between a lot of men and women these days is the idea is that women are equal in every way, except for when they get into trouble and then they need to be rescued. And a lot of men will take issue with the fact that said, look, if you want to be celebrated for the things you do right, great. But if you're not willing to take the things that go wrong as your own personal, as a fault of your own, then how is this an equal society?
Yeah, well, it kind of comes back full circle though, right? Because either she went into it knowing it was a possibility, which kind of like to your point is women, I mean, it's known that women make decisions based on their feelings and their emotions. And we can't really differentiate that. So regardless of if she went over there thinking genuinely it was like a business meeting or thinking there's a possibility of this happening, but hopefully it doesn't, maybe she should have had someone else handle the meeting instead of her going over there on her own.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
It was like set your point.
It was perfect.
It's like, you're right, Sarah. Thank you. Phil agrees with you.
Great timing.
Phil agrees with you. Yeah, I
What
think
is it called? Limited agency?
That's Mary's.
That's my term for it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't mean it as an insult at all, but I, like everyone else here, have a problem with an unequal enforcement of standards. But I would say, like, where did those ideas of equality even come from? It came from the idea that equality equals sameness. And we know that women and men aren't the same. And they are unequal, in my opinion, in every respect, except for their inherent human dignity. Therefore, why would we enforce equal standards on their behavior?
The reason why it's so infuriating when women get sassy or snarky with people, it's because they do so knowing that they live in a society that will hold the person who smacks them to account. But when men get snarky, it's why comedy works better for a lot of times for men, right? A guy is rude to another person. A guy starts something with another person. He does so knowing that if it comes to blows, society will not hold either of them to a different standard.
Yeah, it wasn't always like that though, right? Like, I mean, our legal system is completely biased at this point towards.
Look at Gypsy Rose, whatever, in her half the decade murder charge.
Well, I do want to add to that. I didn't realize that I should mention this at the time, but he also procured the murder weapon and all of the things they needed. And traveled there to commit the crime. Like, he crossed state lines, then he, arranged the getaway. Like, he did have more of an active role in the crime than I made it seem.
Bruh,
but
it was still her idea. She still facilitated it. Facilitating murder.
Well, technically, he facilitated it by getting the murder weapon and, getting the money and everything like that.
It's like hiring a hitman, but you didn't actually have to pay him.
That's a horrible deal. She just gone on the dark web and gotten somebody to do it for.
In my opinion, he should be in an insane asylum. But that's not something that's socially acceptable to suggest anymore.
I look at this case and I can't bring myself to care about the 15-year-old claims that have no
this other one is from 2015.
Yeah, but all of these, it's like, look, because so there's a story right now going around where pro wrestler Chris Jericho is facing his own type of similar situation, and even if it's a recent claim, it's like, look, they're always like, and everyone's like, okay, so somebody makes a claim. And then they're like, I'm just gonna, the rational people are like, I'm just gonna wait for more evidence to come in. What, the hidden camera video from when this happened? What does that mean? Like, when you say more evidence, you mean preponderance of evidence? You mean multiple claims means that where there's smoke, there's fire? What do you actually mean by more evidence? Because outside of actual proof of someone doing it now, the downside of the false claims that have been made, and like things like Amber Heard, is that people are no longer going to believe these things unless somebody has a Ring camera video, like a Ring video.
And who wants to see that anyway?
Yeah, right? like nobody's willing to buy it anymore, and it's broken down into two camps. It's the people who are like, I always had a bad feeling about that person.
I'd never heard of him anyway. I had never heard of Nigel Ligtho or whatever his name is.
So like it's broken down into two camps. Anytime this stuff happens, it's the people who say, oh, he's guilty, we need to put him in jail and make an example out of him to keep the women of the world safe. And there's the people who are like, all women are liars and nothing's like, and then you have the people, so there's three camps. And then there's the people who say, I want to wait for more evidence, to which I say, that's stupid too, because no more evidence is going to come out. The luck that Johnny Depp had was that there's the recording of Amber Heard saying like, oh, I didn't punch you, I hit you. It's different, which frames her.
I think the two camps are like, I like this person, they're innocent, or I disliked this person already, they're probably guilty because I dislike them.
Well, that's really and that's stupid too, right? Like if you're not willing to hold people you like to account, which is why I always laugh whenever people mention Trump's name.
$20 super chat here from Carnell. He said, when PPC, I think he means PCC, hits 1 million subs and you all get your buttons, my vote is for Brett to turn his into a WWE championship belt. He'll be able to finally throw it over his shoulder and have walkout music by Carter Banks. All in favor?
I'm gonna let you know right now. First of all, I would never wear it over my shoulder, and I would never wear it around my waist. You carry it like Stone Cold carried it to the ring, where he treated that thing like trash.
What's the point of it being a belt then if you don't put it around your waist?
Like, it's not cool to wear it. Dorks wear the belt. Stone Cold would literally he would carry this thing and he would just throw it from halfway down the aisle into the ring.
Meaningless.
He would treat it like trash, which made him cool. So I would take the belt. First of all, it would probably be really heavy because be awesome. And then you can do the thing where a big thing they do in wrestling is like sometimes when you cheat, you hit somebody with the belt. So maybe somebody says something bad on the show, and I turn the cameras off and I hit them really quick, and then get the count, the 1, 2, 3 when the cameras come back on. It'd be perfect. All right, guys, let's move on, shall we? That was a little bit too depressing of a start.
Well, I mean, the next one isn't all the more lighthearted. So apparently Cher has filed for conservatorship over her son. This is an adult man, due to his alleged substance abuse issues. The legal documents filed claim that he is substantially unable to manage his financial resources and that a conservator is urgently needed to protect his property from loss or injury. So this is interesting because the word conservatorship after the Free Britney movement is a dirty word and people don't like it anymore. But the reality is, like, even if you agree that Britney Spears shouldn't have been put in a conservatorship, it doesn't mean no one should be. We also covered this story about her son getting allegedly kidnapped by her. And her, like, didn't his wife say that they were in a hotel together and that Cher sent security guards to abduct him, basically?
Well, it was like, I think they were going to hire a deprogrammer, right? To get him out of the... Was that the one who was in the cult and they were trying to get him out of the cult?
Oh, wow.
I don't know if I remember anything about a cult.
I could have swore it was something about a cult.
I think it was just that they
Cher's
wanted
kids
to, like, force him into recovery. But maybe this isn't the same kid. I don't know. I think that... it would be different if people were trying to get a conservatorship over Cher, right? Because she's the moneymaker in the family.
Well, I saw
Britney Spears was the moneymaker in her family.
Yes.
That's why they wanted
This
to take control of her finances.
She's actually trying to help somebody who doesn't, who wouldn't, like, it would be financially beneficial for him if she was being put under the conservatorship, not him. Yeah.
Right. Someone was saying, like, they think it's so she can get a hold of her, like, ex-husband's inheritance through him. I don't know how true that is, or why she would honestly even need that. She's Cher. It seems like she just wants to have more control and say over her son's, like, mental health and well-being.
Yeah, someone said, our understanding of a conservatorship has been derailed because of Britney's abusive situation. Cher expressed her concerns with what happened, so I don't believe she's trying to take advantage of her son or take his money since she has plenty of her own.
Right.
Isn't Cher's boyfriend like the same age as her son?
Her boyfriend's like 40 or 30 or 40 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
and I can imagine her son is like not that much younger than him. Kind of weird. Weird.
Yeah, plus Cher kind of... That's actually like that photo, like every time somebody posts a photo of Cher, they make her look like they got the Photoshop and she looks super young. That's actually like a photo where she looks kind of close to her age.
Isn't she like 80 now?
She's getting up there, but she looks young for her age.
Right.
For the most part.
She looks pretty good.
So
I mean, that's definitely not her real hair color, but you know,
that's
better than Madonna.
That's okay. That's funny too, because I think like if you have black hair, embrace the gray as it grows in. Brown's a little bit different, but like salt and pepper with black hair, at least for men, works really, really well. So it's like, why do you just kind of continue? Who are we talking about? Green Day yesterday?
We're gonna talk about that tomorrow.
But like the
he still dyes his hair black,
Yeah.
and it would look, you know, perfectly normal and fine if he didn't.
Yeah.
Billy Joel?
It's just it seems like he's not Billy Joe is
not
not
Billy Joel.
surrendering to aging as well as he could.
Is he a natural blonde?
I don't know.
Or he naturally has black hair and he keeps dyeing it.
No, it's probably brown.
I have no idea, but
just dyes black.
he's 51.
It's a LARP now. I mean, it was always a
punk
LARP.
rock.
It was a corporate LARP, but you know.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, guys. So Gypsy Rose, she's back in the news again. This lady who I had never heard of until this past week.
I think it's funny to watch her adapt to being a human in society because she was never allowed to do that until a few days ago. It's like watching, like, if you thought out a Neanderthal and put them out into society and said, like, go, be free. So she clearly needs to put her phone away.
Imagine you're like somebody who went to jail in like the 80s and you get out today.
Oh, that would be crazy.
And you're just like, first of all, you're old because the 80s was a long freaking time ago.
Right.
And they're like, we need your phone number, and you give them the phone. I guess you're probably moving into a halfway house, and you get out, and they're like, we need your cell phone number. You're like, bro, I don't.
What's a cell phone?
How old is this girl? She looks young.
She's in her late 20s. She was convicted when she was 19, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, and then she was always treated like a child before she went to prison. So she never lived an adult life until now. And she responded to the haters.
Back at the haters who were dissing her her husband.
Her husband, yes.
Okay,
She is. I think she got married while she was still in prison, is the thing. So she was defending her husband.
Wait. Did they get together? Well, so like
I think so.
So it was like one of those prison bunny catalogs or something like that.
I have no idea how it happened, but they seem happy. So she's defending her husband, Ryan, from negative comments. Here's what she said. Ryan, don't listen to the haters. I love you and you love me. We don't owe anyone anything. Our family is who matters. If you get likes and good comments, great. If you get hate, then whatever, because they don't matter. I love you. Besides, they're jealous because you're rocking my world every night. Yeah, I said it. The D is fire. Happy wife, happy life.
Wow.
Do you think she like is there like some type of like is there like some type of app that you can have that's like gives you like Gen Z slang term suggestions where it's like, if I wanted to say that the sex is good, how would I say that in Gen Z speak?
She's a boomer in like a Gen Z's body.
It wouldn't be D is fire, that's for sure.
I do like I was telling Mary about this I was telling Mary about this video that I saw over the break. It was the trend where it's like, we're this group, of course we're gonna do this, and it was like, we're a prison couple, of course we said I love you on the first within a week of talking, and like whenever the guy would do his part, it was a voice on a phone because he was in jail, and it was incredible. And that's what I feel like this was, except it was in reverse, where the guy's on the outside.
Yeah,
and
someone
she's
get
on
them
the
their own
inside.
reality show.
That will love. What was it?
I
Love,
bet she's had offers.
What was the show?
Love After Lockup.
Love After Lockdown.
Lockup.
Lockup.
Yeah.
Put that.
Yeah.
Is that already a show?
That's a show.
She needs her own.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's getting tons of offers right now.
Yeah.
But she would be smart to decline them. And she would be smart to, not be as active on social media.
You don't need to talk about your personal life so openly.
Yeah.
In this, first of all, it's not going to make him feel more secure.
Poor girl. She doesn't know social media etiquette or etiquette in general now. She got out of prison like 4 days ago. We're gonna give him some slack here.
It's like, wait, who was the one we were talking about who like did a live stream and they couldn't figure out how to do it? It was like
How to turn it off?
But it wasn't Bruce Willis.
It was somebody else.
It was some other old actor, and he kept doing Instagram lives, but he couldn't figure out how to end the live. So he kept calling his granddaughter over.
And it was really funny because he was giving, it was like political.
It was political tough guy shit.
It's like, Trump is a freaking loser, man.
Was it Robert De Niro?
How do I turn? It might have been Robert De Niro. And it's like, he's like,
no, it wasn't Robert
off?
De Niro. It wasn't, but yeah, he kept calling his granddaughter over from the other room, like, hey, can you click the button?
I love it. It's just really
Gypsy
funny. They're like
Rose is
they're
not
talking
the
smack about like Trump, and they're like, yeah, and the Republicans are all evil, and that's all I got to say about that.
How do you turn this off?
How do I turn this off? Yeah. All right, guys. I got another thing that I want to get into a little bit here. So as you know, we got into it a little bit the other day, and it came up a little bit over the break, but Disney did not have a very good year in the year 2023, a very bad one, in fact. And one of the things that I found interesting is very recently on a live stream, I mentioned that when we go into a movie, there is only one studio logo that doesn't fill me with a sense of just immediate dread, and that's Universal Studios. For some reason, when I see the Universal Pictures logo, I tend to feel like what we're about to watch is either fun and irreverent, or it's going to be something that's not full of woke garbage, as much as I hate that term. Well, this has come to pass that in the year 2023, Universal Pictures ranks as the highest grossing studio. Out of all of them, this is the first time since the year 2015 that Disney did not win at the box office.
And Universal owns DreamWorks, am I correct?
Yes.
So they've got Kung Fu Panda coming out next, or in this upcoming year. And do they own the Despicable Me franchise as well?
So what was funny about this, right? So when I was looking at this box office breakdown from Variety, it was listing the highs and the lows of each of the movies from these studios that came out. And for Disney, it listed The Little Mermaid as a high, making $569 million. And for Universal, it listed The Fast and the Furious as a low, making $704 million.
The highs for Disney are 2 out of 3 of them lost money.
Yeah.
So, and that's an understatement. On a long list of movies that lost money, they only got a profit off of Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
And barely comparatively.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rest of them all lost money.
The lows were The Marvels, Dial of Doo-Doo, and
Yes.
Wish. Grade C+.
And it's just really
They
funny
deserve
because
less.
We were looking at all of this stuff, and Disney is the only one where, like, whenever we cover this stuff, I'm always like, I try to like take a 30,000 foot view and say, is it really as bad as it looks, or is this the type of thing where because we do this every day, we get so wrapped up in it that maybe it's not as bad as it is, and there's a little bit of tunnel vision. Disney's actually probably been worse than we've given them credit for this year in a lot of ways, because to tarnish that much licensed, like, they have so many properties that are just a license to print money, and they just can't seem to figure it out these days. And that's not even including all of the behind the scenes stuff, which damaged them even further. When you think about all of the crap that was going on with Bob Iger, the fighting with Ron DeSantis of all people, and you go through these movies like Wish, which just absolutely bombs at the box office, and you finish with things like the Marvels. They didn't even include things like the Marvels on here for $204 million with these massive budgets. And you wonder, how is it that a studio like Universal, it's kind of like a microcosm of what I mentioned, where Barbie makes like $1 billion, like $1.4 billion, and it's in the news every single day, and everyone's talking about it. How is it that Super Mario Brothers makes nearly the same amount of money and nobody even remembers that it did that at the start of the year? There was no fanfare. It just made a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
Maybe because it was oriented toward children.
Yeah. There's no
It doesn't have as
argument
much cultural conversation and controversy.
There's an argument there that
political messaging.
Yeah, I don't know though, because you could say like Barbie is culturally huge, but so are the Super Mario Brothers and Donkey Kong and all those characters.
But Barbie is tied to feminism, and feminism is a discussion point for channels like this, where it becomes a conversation point. Super Mario Brothers would have been perhaps more so if they had taken even more liberties. I mean, I heard plenty of people who said they took liberties with it that they wish they hadn't have.
Peach?
On Peach, on certain other things.
Yeah, Peach was super feminist.
It's also funny how like I was talking about the David Ayer post. He had this post that went viral where he was talking about like people are just looking at things and they just want to hate them these days. And I said, that's not true. I said, like, it's really easy to win people back. People want to give you their money. They do. They tell you how to do it. They want to like stuff. Nobody wants to spend, like, maybe you could say that some YouTubers might like the idea of having stuff to crap on because it gives them content, but nobody who's going to risk spending $18 for a ticket, upwards to $100 if you're bringing a family to see the movies. Nobody's going into that wanting to hate it. There's no reason to do that.
He'll tell himself that as a cope for every failed project.
And it made me think of the fact that, like, look, Dungeons and Dragons had all the makings of being something that everybody would hate, but everyone that would normally hate on it liked it. There was no, but it didn't make all that much money. But it's not like people went in there and just hated on it because Chris Pine said some stupid stuff about men before remember he said like, he was happy that the men in the movie had to get rescued by the women. Yeah, which is a super beta stupid thing to say. But it didn't distract from people enjoying the film, right? So what is it that Universal is doing right that Disney can't seem to figure out? Well, look at these movies. Super Mario Brothers, geared towards kids, found its target audience, hit the mark, made $1 billion.
That's Universal?
That's Universal. Okay. Oppenheimer, $951 million. They did this with a 3-hour-long biopic because they gave Chris Nolan carte blanche to do what he needs to do and make his movie. Unlike Warner Brothers, who tends to interfere, or Disney, who doesn't just interfere, but outright sabotages their own projects by making them the product of the culture war by hiring people that they know are going to make it something to argue about on the internet, thus handicapping it before it even starts.
$20 from Gage Doherty. I watch YouTube on my TV. I always notice that I'm unsubscribed from channels I previously subscribed to. However, I've noticed that recently I have had to resubscribe every time I watch you guys. Same with Daily Wire and more.
Yeah. So a couple people have said that to me recently, but also like I noticed I do every so often I do a podcast on a show called The Salty Nerd. It's another YouTube channel. And every time I go back to check the channel, I'm unsubscribed from it. So like they're getting it back.
That's happened to me before too.
Yeah.
For sure.
So these are the other ones. Five Nights at Freddy's. $289 million, but low overhead on the film.
And same with Megan. It's supposed to be more lighthearted horror movie or thriller movie.
So they put Fast and the Furious as a low because it made $704 million, but it cost over $300 million to make. Therefore, the profit on it's almost non-existent, if there's any at all. And it made most of that money overseas. It didn't resonate here in America as well as it could have. The book club, The Next Chapter, I don't even know what that is. So I don't know what the budget on something like that is. Renfield, $26 million. That was the Nicolas Cage vampire movie.
I'm surprised by that.
I didn't even hear about that.
Both of their two last ones are vampire, or one's vampire, and they're both Dracula movies. The Last Voyage of the Demeter was also.
Yeah.
And neither of those made any money at all. And it kind of just goes to show that, like, as much as IP matters, certain ones just aren't selling right now. They're just not hitting the way that they would like them to.
It might help to put Dracula in the title. Yeah. To let people know.
But that's something that the studios would have done 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They'd be terribly. I know, but here's the thing: a lot of audiences complain that they're talked down to, and that they make them look, we're not stupid. I'm like,
in the script, yes, but in the title,
not a little bit.
In the title, like, it can be a little confusing.
Yeah. So Megan was a huge movie.
A $12 million movie that made $180 million.
Yeah. So I think the number one takeaway that I've had from all of this is just drop the budgets on these things. Mm-hmm. All of the best movies of this year cost like $100 million to make. Oppenheimer cost $100 million to make, and it's 3 hours long. Right? Barbie cost $100 million to make, made $1 billion. I'm going to keep harping on this until they stop spending $250 to $300 million and then get mad when making $600 million doesn't get you your money back.
Right.
It's just stupid. Like,
and even when they spend exorbitant amounts of money, it doesn't even look expensive.
Yeah. And I'm not
like, look at the Marvel movies. They cost hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars, and it looks like shit.
Yep.
So
where's the
money being spent?
Whereas the creator cost $80 million and looked absolutely beautiful. Problem is, what if they did this? What if, well, again, a lot of people didn't like that movie. I did fine. What if they gave Gareth Edwards and said, look, we're going to give you $100 million. Go make a Marvel space movie. You can film on location if you want to. You can do all these things. But once you get up to that studio level, for the most part, even the big directors aren't really as in charge of their movies as they would be if it was a smaller budget project.
Another one from Gage Doherty. Same with Tim Dillon's show, but less frequently and many more, but never on gaming channels or on music reaction channels and such. Starting to feel obvious in my mind that YouTube is choosing who loses subscribers. Thoughts?
My thought is that more of you should subscribe if you're not already, to help offset this injustice that's being done to us by YouTube.
Do any of you else in the chat have the same experience of being unsubscribed from us?
There was a really funny one. Okay, so I was in the Discord on Friday or Saturday, whenever they did on New Year's, New Year's show, and they were talking about like white pills for the year. I was like, well, PCC just passed 90,000 subscribers. And Chris is one of the people on the stage, goes, that's not true because I'm subscribed on 5 separate channels. And I was like, damn it. I laughed. I was like, damn, got me. Like, okay, fine.
Should that even be allowed?
I'm taking the win either way. It's a win either way. So go and subscribe now to help us get to 100,000 subscribers. Yeah. But like a lot of these studios, look, just spend less money. Also, Warner Brothers ended the year with 3 out of 4 movies being the top ones at the box office. And as much as me and Mary didn't like Wonka, it picked back up and did well because it had more mass appeal. It didn't have a bunch of...
Wonka was Warner Brothers?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it ended with 3 of the 4 biggest movies of the year.
And we didn't like Aquaman either.
No. Or it ended with 3 of the 4 biggest movies at the box office, even though Aquaman still fell way under expectations as to what it should have actually made. But we
didn't even watch Shazam.
No, we didn't review Shazam. But also, like, they put the Meg 2 on here. Meg 2 made $395 million. Everybody hated it. Everybody loved the first Meg one. Nobody even liked the second one.
Oh, I was pissed there was no dinosaurs.
There you go.
That's the only reason I watched it.
So we need what I found is, like, once I found out recently that Twisters, have you ever seen the movie Twister? With Bill Paxton.
I think I've seen
Hunt.
it like on TV randomly.
So they're making a new Twister called Twisters. and it's a climate change movie.
That's like a worse title than going from Suicide Squad to The Suicide Squad.
So what I think somebody needs to do is what they like to push back on this injustice is they need to make a Sharknado movie that's just completely even stupider than it already is. Like, what's the opposite of propaganda? I want it to be so unintelligible that there's no actual message, so nobody can be propagandized. Like, just a shark eating people while a tornado spins it around.
They're really running out of ideas. I know that's not a new take either, but I mean, the Night Swim movie, they're not running out of ideas. What if they had a ghost in the pool in their backyard and that haunts their pool?
They're not running out of ideas.
They're
not running out of ideas. They're just afraid to green light the new ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Or maybe what they could do, did you ever see the movie Swim Fan?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, anybody in the chat who saw Swim Fan, maybe they should make a new Swim Fan. All right. Let's go ahead. What would you guys like to see? Cringe or cute of the day?
Sarah, you
let's do cringe.
Okay.
Let's start with cringe.
This one hurt when I saw it. I felt bad for this guy. Here we go. Check this out. So this guy, he's got his Mike Tyson tattoo, and he's about to meet him, and it's a very sad exchange.
Oh no. Oh, no!
Very sad.
Almost not cringe. It's just like he had to lead with the tattoo.
Generally, bad idea to get celebrities' faces tattooed on your body forever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
because you never know what could happen.
That's just weird.
Anyone's face, really, but especially
what if,
a stranger.
I guess it'd be weird. Or it would be worse for that guy if Mike Tyson turned to him and saw that and was like, "Get away from me, you weirdo!
Yeah.
Like, why do you have my face tattooed on your arm?"
Mike Tyson. Also, like, tattoos on like face. Like, I remember you see that meme where it's like a girl has like her grandma's face tattooed on her back, and this guy's like, just found out this girl I'm seeing has her grandma's face tattooed on the back, and just I can't. Like, just no. Makes sense. All right, we got some cute today. I got some catching up to do from the holidays, so I wanted to share some of these. This is from Amber Graham. Says, our puppy Paisley getting in the holiday spirit. My husband had to play the Grinch at our church party, and we realized she looks like his dog Max. And if you look close in the first pic, you can see my son's dog Yoshi in the background.
Do you have the antlers?
It does look like the dog from the movie. What kind of dog is that?
This is a whole like stylized photo shoot.
It's good. All right, let's do one more. And guys, submit, because we're gonna run out again if you guys don't submit more. So here we go. Well, one more from the holidays.
Going through the Christmas themed ones.
Here's from Tacty Platty. Says, here's my sister's cat staying with us, being holiday festive. She looks so happy.
Aww.
I'm sorry. I have a very strong dislike of dressing up pets.
Why?
Stop humiliating them.
No,
Don't put
they
your.
love it.
They like it.
No, they're
Look at that cat,
guys.
He's so cozy.
He looks so happy to
in
be
his straitjacket.
Humiliated.
He's so warm and like.
He's got fur. He's like, literally, get me out of this thing, human.
If he really wanted to be out of it,
Focus.
he would be.
This is just wrong.
It looks like Bogus, doesn't it?
A little bit. The same like stern look on his face. Yes.
All right, guys. Now that we've finished all of that, and we are 50 minutes into the show. Mary, why don't you tell us what the hell is going on with Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais?
Well, both Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais have just put out new specials on Netflix, and they have taken the #1 and #2 spots on the platform. Ricky Gervais, I believe, is at #1 with Armageddon. We talked about that because he got in trouble for making jokes about terminally ill children. He called them baldy. And Dave Chappelle's new special is also getting some flack because he's making, predictably, some jokes about trans people and disabled people. And it's sort of it's turning into a meta thing where he's making jokes about the fact that he makes offensive jokes. Yeah. And for me, it's kind of falling flat, but I haven't watched it, to be fair to him. And I see this New York Times headline that already has me annoyed. Dave Chappelle assumes we're already offended by his new Netflix special.
My problem with all of the writing on this stuff is the elitist tone of all the articles.
Well, I mean, they think that Dave Chappelle has his own elitist tone. They're saying that this has a very self-aggrandizing tone, you know, he walks off stage and he has these rock star images of himself walking to the stage in slow-mo, and it ends with a montage of him with everyone from Bono and Mike Tyson to the Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos. And they say what sticks with you in Chappelle's sets is less the jokes than the other stuff: discourse, courting jabs, celebrity gossip, and oddball flourishes. And, you know, I guess they're saying he's relying more on provoking people than on amusing people. And I do believe if you're leaning too hard into being politically incorrect, then you're still letting the politically correct people control the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, it's a valid point, even though the New York Times is saying it, and I always want them to shut up. It's a valid point to make.
I think it's just one of the unfortunate outcomes of being part of a more connected society. Like back when Chappelle's show was on, that was different, right? There was a lot less immediate feedback, so you lean more into the humor that's already been set into your style. Whereas now it's almost like you let the discourse dictate your style.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like you follow where the tone is going, then you go
Here's
after
their
it.
example. Back in 2017, Dave Chappelle began making jokes about transgender people, and he hasn't stopped in special after special, show after show. How you feel about this fixation is baked in at this point. He begins this new hour with a labored trans joke, which I don't know what it is.
Again,
before
labored
saying
is their interpretation.
he's finished making them, fat chance. They're as much a part of his brand as his name on his jacket. Then he says he has a new angle, disabled jokes. Quote, "They're not as organized as the gays, and I love punching down."
I do find it funny that they expect the jokes to go away, but that makes no sense because trans ideology has only grown since he started doing them. It's not like it's become less culturally relevant. If anything, it's become more culturally relevant. Mm-hmm. And if your humor is going to stay with the times, then that follows pretty logically that you're going to continue to make jokes as long as it's culturally...
The subjects aren't any less taboo than they were in 2017. In fact, they've gotten more contentious as time went on.
Exactly.
They said the more common criticism you hear these days is not that Dave Chappelle aims for a niche, but that he seems to prefer making points to getting laughs. And it's kind of just a right-wing, or not right-wing, anti-woke version of clapter. Mm-hmm. The clapter that Jimmy Fallon goes for, right?
Also, like if we're talking about punching down, like that would limit his subject matter to what? White men and rich black men, and that's the only people he would be allowed to criticize.
Sure.
You wouldn't, like, you're limiting your scope. And what I think that...
I mean, everyone loves it when he makes jokes about Kanye.
Yeah. Like, what I think people don't realize, or at least elitists like people at the New York Times don't realize, is that the average person doesn't like the idea that there's any such thing as a sacred cow. Like, if you all exist in a supposedly equal society, everyone has to be willing to be made fun of, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when we do this show, we have to be willing to look, people make a lot of memes about the jokes get made at our expense, jokes get made at my expense, and that's just part of being an adult. And like, if you don't want that, don't do anything, don't say anything, don't have an opinion on anything, stay out of the public arena altogether, and you can just wallow in not being heard. But if you want to be heard, then you have to be willing to get some pushback.
The problem is, if you hate these anti-woke star comics so much, present a better alternative. Their alternative is like Amy Schumer or other no-name comics whose entire sense of humor is like Tumblr jokes that they copy and pasted.
Yeah.
It's not original. You could do it better, but you won't, because you know, humor is based in truth, and you're not like living in team reality. Like, you're not on team reality. You live in a delusion, so you can't make jokes that actually disarm people, right?
Yeah.
And it's just really self-defeating. And then this article turned to target Ricky Gervais as well. They said he released a dutifully predictable collection of jokes about supposedly taboo subjects. That special, Armageddon, makes Dave Chappelle look fascinating by comparison. He trots out complaints about people being easily offended before setting up bits that lean so hard on the assumption of that response that there isn't much more to them. His fans eat it up. But what's striking about this hour is the justifications, defensive explanations, the spelling out of themes. Fine, make your Holocaust and pedophile jokes, but how about show, don't tell?
I would like him to take the new challenge. I would like to see a revival of Chappelle show. I would like to see him go back to sketch comedy and see that get like a primetime slot somewhere.
Yeah.
Not on streaming, but have
To
him
directly compete with SNL
and
then bankrupt them for good.
Like if it would be a great test of his, because he's such a gifted creator. Like his last.
But would that
SNL
fit better on like social media, like on YouTube?
I mean, that would be awesome. What if he just launched like a really, really well done YouTube channel?
Yeah.
And did sketch comedy bits again.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see that, because I think first of all it gives more creativity to the production element, which was always like the costumes and the sets, like in the mini sets. I would love to see him and Key and Peele go back to doing sketch comedy that was more representative of the time when they were in their prime, right? As far as creators, granted, all of them have moved away from that now, and that's not really
Jordan Peele isn't funny anymore.
It's not their bag, and because it came up when we were watching. When we were watching about the what was the movie that got all that hullabaloo recently? The American Society of Magic. What was the movie?
Magical N-words.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what we'll leave.
That there is a Key and Peele sketch based solely on that concept, and it was hilarious. And there's endless Chappelle. Like before memes existed, people my age just shouted Chappelle quotes at each other across the room. That's the joke. Right? And to see him go back to that format, I think like if he could take today's topics and work it into that format, he could have an entirely new revival.
Well, what do you think of Ricky Gervais's own recommendation, which is that they co-host the Oscars together?
It would be first of all, it would never happen, and it would be stupid, because if they were allowed to do it, that just means the establishment allowed you to do it.
Well,
So
Ricky
that's not cool
Gervais's
anymore.
monologue at the Golden Globes in what was that, 2018, was actually, it seemed like he did get one over on them,
Wasn't
and
that
they
2020?
were uncomfortable.
I think that was 2020.
Sorry, 2020.
2020.
Like that seemed like he had to have lied about what his monologue said to get that greenlit.
It was always funny
right.
too,
People were visibly uncomfortable and shocked.
The only person who looked like that thought that was funny as all was Adam Driver. Everybody else was really
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And Adam Driver's like, I was in the military.
Yes.
This is funny. Yeah.
like,
And
could he pull that off again 3 years later or 4 years later? I guess now.
I just I would love to see these guys move to, because Gervais has that television has that Netflix show that was pretty popular, and
What show?
the one, I don't remember what it was called, but he has a show on Netflix that's popular, so they can do the other mediums, right? But Chappelle's true gift in the beginning was acting, and like maybe I'll watch Half Baked this weekend. Maybe that's what I'll do. But like was the Chappelle show, which
You ever
was
see Screwed also?
yes,
With Norm Macdonald.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's what I'm saying. Oh man, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Rip Norm Macdonald. But like to see them go back to the medium that actually
Yeah.
made them famous. Or more famous would be fantastic, and it would lead for more. Plus, it also, what it would do is it would put the onus on other performers. Are you willing to co-sign this? And because back in the day, they would have no problem going on the Chappelle show and saying something controversial, because it was a less controversial time. Now he would have to work to actually find actors that would be willing to make those jokes.
Well, maybe they would feel like the Chappelle show is their safe space to.
Maybe.
That's an ironic term to use for it, but their safe space to say
Because
what they really
Jeremy
think.
Boring was talking about like all these actors that reached out to him and said, I want to make a movie. And then when they said, we're making this movie called Lady Ballers, they all balked and said, I'm not making that movie.
Yeah, no thanks.
Who's going to be willing to take a risk and say, look, it's just a joke. Deal with it.
Right.
Yeah. And that is so confusing. Now that you remind me, he said that.
Yeah.
Because it would have gone well for them
Yep.
had they said yes to being on a project like that.
There's a $20 super chat there.
Disco Jensen said, blank isn't a slur. Just say it with a Spanish accent and you'll be fine. I don't want to risk it on YouTube, to be honest. Maybe we should say ninjas. Someone suggested we say ninjas.
Yes.
That's a good replacement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody says popular enough to forget what it's called. Does anybody remember what the name of that? It was the show where he was given like
Ricky Gervais had a sitcom?
It was like, yeah, and he's like, he's only
like
got a certain
cancer or
amount of,
something?
he's got cancer. He's only got a certain amount of time to live.
It's Breaking Bad.
There you go. Afterlife.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and let's do some super chats, shall we?
Andrew Jacobs said, I'm not reading that. Shane H. Wilder said, so I read an interview on Twisters and they confirmed that it will be about climate change. Here I was hoping for right foot red, left hand green.
You were never going to get a movie about natural disasters that are not now insane climate. I can't wait for like Iceberg, the movie. And it's just or like,
Iceberg,
or
the movie.
Ice Caps. Like, I'm surprised they haven't made Santa Claus into like something like that.
Ice Age was about climate change, wasn't it?
Technically, but like, so climate change is inevitable and it's always happened.
Yeah.
So in that way, yes. They weren't saying it was like man-made climate
Right.
change though, because we didn't make climate change.
It was really funny how in Aquaman 2, basically it's literally man-made climate change because the bad guy's creating it with like...
They had climate change in Aquaman 2, you said?
Yes.
It was the entire
It was
point.
the whole book.
Oh, wow.
My favorite part is
Basically.
based Black Manta says, like, thank God for global warming. I'm like, I love that. That's my position is not that climate change isn't real. My version is that climate change is a good thing. Like, I'm no longer of the opinion that climate change is fake. I just think we should probably raise
Which
the
actor
temperature
was
of the
that
planet a little bit.
again?
The Yahya Abdul-Mateen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Corey
Let's just
Anderson.
make climate change great again and make it global warming. Like, to be cool and retro, you have to only say global warming.
And also calling climate change activists tree huggers. That
Yes.
needs to come back. Corey Anderson said, Mary out here working up her trad wife simps with that dress. Still haven't seen the Astro boots.
Still got those?
I do have them. They don't look like what I ordered, but you know, I can wear them. I can wear them soon if you want me to show them on the PTZ. And this is actually a shirt, not a dress. Kobe McGuire said, I missed the Rachel Zegler Sucks podcasters. We're back.
We're back.
And she still sucks.
Let's do one more.
Corey Anderson
But
said,
is that look? We were pretty fair to her for the review of Hunger Games.
Yeah, we were.
Yes, got to be fair. Even
Yeah.
if she can sing. She may be an awful person, but she can sing.
Corey Anderson said, for some reason I can't call Jimmy Kimmel a female dog. Yeah, the YouTube censors are out to get you.
All right, let's hold off on the rest, and we'll come back after the fact. So, all right, guys. So, as you know, Hollywood, it's full of scumbags. Lots and lots of scumbags. They're everywhere. Very, very common thing. We talk a lot about ex-child stars or ex-child stars who are still acting. You talk about all of the bad things that were done to them when they were children.
I mean,
or
look, the
things that they
Olsen
watched in.
twins,
Yep.
Lindsay Lohan, Amanda Bynes, Jeanette McCurdy. The list just goes on and on.
There's an endless list of them, but there was this video that Mary sent me from a young woman named Arden Young, who has a tweet that says, my New Year's resolution is to #expose Hollywood. And she posted this fantastic and very informative video describing some of the things that happened to her when she was just 13 years old. So
yeah, and I mean, she says this is a part 1, so she's not even done talking about her experiences yet, but this is like, for someone who didn't make it to the level of an Amanda Bynes or a Miley Cyrus, the predatory practices start there from the top to bottom in the entertainment industry, and I think that's a really important point to make. She said, like, it's not just the Harvey Weinsteins, basically.
she said, if anything, it's the middle management.
And it's
people
not
that-
even about necessarily having bad parents. She said, like, her parents weren't stage parents that pushed her into this. Like, she wanted it, and this is what was normalized to her at the time.
So let's watch this video real quick.
I received an overwhelming amount of requests and responses for me to share more of my experience growing up in Hollywood, and so I've decided to share one of those experiences with you today. My intention in sharing this with you is to educate people on how dangerous Hollywood is and hopefully make a parent think twice before allowing their child to pursue a career in Hollywood. Let me start off by saying my parents were vigilant, good parents. They allowed me to pursue acting after years of begging. This wasn't some type of stage mom situation where they were willing to do whatever it took for me to be famous or successful. And they were definitely not willing to turn a blind eye to anyone who wanted to harm me in return for success, which unfortunately does happen. But the nature of the industry is that there are inherent power dynamics at play for aspiring actors that make them vulnerable to predators who put themselves in those power positions. And it doesn't have to be a famous producer like Harvey Weinstein. More often I found it's the low to mid-level agents, managers, acting
Horrible timing.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
I will never,
Brett, you sound so ungrateful.
I will never say that it's a bad thing to get a crisis party, but
Arden's watching this right now and she's like
the
pissed.
everyday people that actors
let's
are
rewind just a couple seconds in.
More often I found it's the low to mid-level agents, managers, acting coaches, photographers, the everyday people that actors are forced to rely upon to even begin their careers. Which brings me to the early stages of my acting career. I was 13 years old and I was in a children's acting class with around a dozen other kids in the age range of 12 to 17. It was taught by a man who was in his mid to late 30s at the time. In this class, like 99% of all children's acting classes was closed off to parents. This acting
First
teacher
red flag.
assigned
Super red
me
flag.
and another 13-year-old girl a scene together that called for us to make out with each other on a couch. So, me and this 13-year-old girl made out on the couch in front of other kids and this acting teacher upwards of 30 times. There was even a time when another grown man who worked at the studio was brought in to watch us do the scene. And the other kids in the class were also told to do sexually inappropriate things with each other as well. We were encouraged to perform these acts because if there was something that made us uncomfortable, it was because we weren't free or uninhibited enough, which we were told were the qualities of the best actors. And this is a really common tool a predator will use. If you're not willing to do XYZ, then you don't have what it takes to be successful. But wait, it gets worse. A couple years after leaving that class, when I was 15 or 16, that same acting teacher contacted me over Facebook and solicited me for sex, asking me to come over to his apartment. And by the way, his solicitations were extremely graphic. Thankfully, I had no interest and did not agree. A disturbing thing, though, is that the culture of the industry caused me to actually find humor and amusement out of this washed-up acting coach asking a teen girl for sex, instead of being deeply disturbed and reporting it. The thought that he was a predator didn't even cross my mind because of the anything goes beliefs around sex in Hollywood, as well as the false belief that being sexually desired is what made me valuable. Sad, right? So please, parents and kids, take note of just another way Hollywood can prey on you. And I'll be posting another video on this soon.
It's kind of the same thing you were saying about Paula Abdul. She said maybe this isn't the best thing for me to do. And
the difference with Paula Abdul is like she was a grown woman and also had her own status and money in the industry by the time that these incidents happened.
But I'm saying she
allegedly.
she knew that it was not. I guess this guy
this girl,
also he didn't say come over for a business meeting. He propositioned her for that part
Straight
sounded weird to me. Like the guy's just like hello, da 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 da. Like would you like to come over and like that's. I guess, right?
It's going to be on the logs that Chris Hansen prints out and brings to his house.
People in the chat were saying she looks fake, like she looks CGI.
It must be the lighting.
I saw her. She did some reporting, like on Pornhub and stuff. Like she does.
Yeah, she works
reporting.
for a network called SoundInvestigations.com, and she does undercover expose work currently on Pornhub. So she's doing a sort of Project Veritas style reporting, where she talks to executives from the company. I haven't looked into it much, but it would be interesting to ask her about it. But this just shows that even with the most well-intentioned and watchful parents, you really can't put your kid into that industry without running the huge risk of predatory adults preying on them, basically.
Parents being outlawed from the acting classes is...
That should have been the first red flag. The first red flag is that the parents weren't allowed to sit in and see what their children were being taught or what they were doing in there. When they're the ones paying for the acting classes, especially, that's insane.
Yeah.
And this guy with no overhead, no supervision, is able to do and say whatever he wants. I guess it sort of reminds me of when James Franco got in trouble for doing that acting class that was only for women. And granted, this was adults, not children, but he was teaching them how to do intimacy scenes or sex scenes. And that's allegedly when the misconduct occurred. It's just like a very morally complicated line of work, and one that children just shouldn't be mixed up in, even without the risk of predatory adults around children.
Do you think she'll end up naming actual names of people?
I was just wondering that.
I don't know. I guess it really wouldn't have any effect if the people she's talking about are the low level or mid level people. They're not the Harvey Weinsteins.
I mean, it could have an effect on those people and prevent them from.
Right. Yeah.
But again, then we get into the notion
we'll have to
like,
see.
Is there even any proof of this? And then you have to try to be logically consistent through all of these things. Like you have to try to hold yourself to the same standards. Just because these are people that you agree with, that it's probably true, doesn't mean that you shouldn't hold the same level of evidentiary importance to whether it's true. But we know that the culture around Hollywood is that. But for individual people, she's going to be worried about a lawsuit. She can't prove anything.
I plan on posting another story next week, so that would be this week. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, but keep in mind sharing this stuff is very new to me. I truly hope this helps someone out there thinking of allowing their child to pursue acting. Yeah. Hollywood is not a place for children. And I think just the work in and of itself is kind of harmful to a child's psyche, because you have to, in order to act, the function of it is that you have to separate yourself from your real identity and have multiple identities. And think about the way that Amanda Bynes did it on the Amanda Bynes shows. She's playing like 10 to 20 different characters at once in one day.
Right.
And, later on, we can see that this had a negative effect on her mental health. Like it wasn't even that long ago that she was like walking around the streets of LA naked in a complete like psychotic episode, had no idea where she was and had to check herself into a mental health facility.
Yeah.
So like, the Dan Schneiders of the world and of that industry aside, the work in and of itself seems like it actually harms their mental health. But then there's obviously the additional risk that, when you put adults and kids together in an environment that's supposed to be professional, abuse happens.
Yeah. It's extremely common. I mean, you guys saw The Sound of Freedom, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The whole way that the kids get kidnapped is because they're sent to this like photo
shoot,
like a talent agency.
Supposedly.
So it's not just in America.
Right. They're like, come back at 5.
Over.
And they're like, come back at 5 p.m.
Right.
And then they're just all gone.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember they got into detail. I mean, then you could make that claim, right? Because there's kids acting in that movie. Right? Kids who have to be in a scene.
And what are their stories,
There are kids in that movie who had to be in scenes where like they have the guy and he walks in slowly and he starts to take his belt off. And you worry, like, you're like, how much did that kid retain from that? But I remember that they said that they went through great lengths to make sure that those kids understood that what you're experiencing is what this is not real. And it never went, like, the scene isn't cut anywhere. Like, it didn't get cut down. Like, that's the extent of it. It wasn't filmed further. That's the extent of the scene. So there's an ethical argument there. Like, is the message that they're sending important enough to put kids at risk by making a movie like that? And then you get into the art of it all and wondering whether there's a certain level of efficacy to the idea that, if they're sending a good message, then it's okay. But if they're sending a bad message, then it's not. What do the kids retain from that?
I believe they said that for the kid who played the younger brother, at least, like he was like 4 or 5 years old, right? They didn't tell him what the scenes were about. He just was told, you cry at this line, you express this emotion here, and what happens, but they weren't going to tell him in detail what this was about, because that would be traumatic in and of itself.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I remember, so there was an episode of Criminal Minds where Hotchner's, like, he's been basically being stalked by this serial killer for like 2 seasons, and the dude gets like his wife and son have to go into witness protection, and like the guy finds them, and he's like on the phone with his wife, and the guy's sitting there talking to his wife, and the wife knows she's going to die. And she has to put a brave face on for her son, who's so young, he has no idea what's going on. And so the son is watching the mom basically look terrified while trying to hold it together, while this dude is sitting there and sends the kid away. Like, how much does a young person retain from something like that, where it's very clearly not a good situation?
Yeah.
Kids have to act in scenes like that.
Yeah.
A lot of actors who are adults now that started as kids speak, you know, in an admiring tone about the way their parents made sacrifices to allow them to be in the entertainment industry. Like, I remember Sydney Sweeney was one of them. She said that, you know, they grew up very middle class, and that her parents quit their jobs and moved across the country to allow her to work in LA. And look, it all turned out to be worth it because I got to, you know, do pretend gangbangs on Euphoria. Is it really worth that trade-off, though? Like, is it worth the trade-off of your dignity?
Yeah.
Right. And she's still in her prime. Usually things like that don't catch up to you until later.
Well, we
Or
talked
especially if you
our
lose
video
your success.
Yeah, we talked about Jennifer Love Hewitt. That video actually did really, really well about her. Like, I was sexualized when I was 17 or 18, and like most of the comments were like, well, then return the money. If you really have a problem with it on moral grounds, then return the money, or accept that some choices were made when you were younger. That, like, it's not all. It's like when she's like, she was on Maxim and stuff when she was 18 or 19 and stuff like that. You were an adult.
What's Maxim?
It was like a men's magazine, like FHM back. Wow, I feel old now.
Was it like Playboy or not really?
No. It's like you still had clothes on, but it was, you know, it was.
Oh, like Maxim's Hot 100.
Yes.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
right.
I
So
remember
like
that.
all of the women of that time period, that was a very big thing, and it wasn't.
Well, it's normalized to them long before they turn 18,
Yeah.
which is really the core issue.
Yeah.
Like, that's the culture that this girl Arden Young was talking about, is everything, all of this libertinism is normalized to you from the time that you're a child in the industry. It's that anything goes attitude about sexuality that you're told is necessary to get success.
And it's an extremely like manipulative use of actual advice that they give adult actors, right? Which is like, look, if you're going to actually embody this character, there does have to be a certain amount of, you have to be a certain level of free. You have to disassociate from yourself, and you can't let your ego get into it, or you won't be able to embody that character. There will always be reservation in your performance, which is good advice for adults.
Right.
For children, in the context of a sexual situation, it's taking good advice for adults and using it as a way to manipulate kids.
Right. The adults are capable of doing that because theoretically, by the time you're an adult, you're a fully formed human being, and you are able to psychologically, you know, dissociate into another character without it fragmenting your real identity. But a child is just inherently not capable of doing that because they're not fully formed yet.
Yeah.
And I would just say that's inherently wrong, it's at least inherently going to be morally complicated when you start doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would never let my child act. Or we have to just accept that child actors may suck. I feel like that's gonna the two choices.
Yeah.
And the kids who want that see other child stars on TV and like think, I want to do that, they don't understand the implications of it. Like, I uncovered over Christmas the old files from when I went to a talent search, and like the card of like the agent and everything, and I was like, wow, thank God that I, you know, even though I didn't have the discernment at the time to know what, you know, the dangerous things that could have happened to me, that my parents understood and shielded me from it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I went to one of those when I was like 13. And then my parents just never followed up with it. And I'm like, thank God.
Yeah, I'm sure that happens a lot.
For real.
All right. Let's go to Super Chats, shall we?
The Undertaker said the Clinton admin also popped out all of the W's from every keyboard in the White House to make things difficult for George W. Bush administration.
If that's true, that's hilarious.
The level of pettiness is unrivaled. Corey Anderson said, if women didn't leave the kitchen, they would be harassed. LOL, that's a joke.
Do two more.
Shane H. Wilder said, the D is fire. I'm sure they make an ointment for that. Oh, well, I'll get my coat and see myself out.
It is giving venereal.
Yeah, I was like, Gypsy, I don't know if that's a good thing. Corey Anderson said there are over 1K watching. Hit the like button.
Yes, guys,
Yes, you
please
should.
go ahead and hit the like button.
You have
would
an
please?
obligation to hit that like button.
You do. All right, guys, let's move on. We got a bunch of other stuff to talk about today. So, if you don't know, Hollywood has a very, very severe obsession with race and gender. I think all of us understand that pretty clearly by now. But one of the things that we've talked about a lot over the last couple of years is this thing that they do at the end of the year. It's this group called the USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative, where they basically give Hollywood a report card on how racist and sexist they are. And what they do inevitably every year is they say, blah, 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 this change, this change, this change. There's still so much work to be done. You're all evil people, right? Well, they have come out this year, and this is what the new study finds. It says major studios pledged to hire more female filmmakers and people of color were performative. So they did.
You don't say.
You don't say.
Well,
right?
that's, if you are by trade a DEI executive, and this is what you do for a living, is you tabulate the number of disabled people, the number of gay people, the number of people of color or women in a certain movie or TV show. You exist to propagate the necessity for you to exist. So you actually, as a DEI executive, don't want diversity, equity, and inclusion to ever be realized, because that would mean you don't get a paycheck anymore. You would, I mean, you're not necessary in the first place, but even just the pretense for your existence, for your job, would be eliminated if we ever reached this utopia of diversity
Which
and
doesn't
inclusion
exist.
that you want.
Do they even have a goal? Is there like
No.
a clear
There's
goal?
the goal
More.
is just to complain.
It's the Kanye and Kobe Bryant thing where he's like, how much more do you want? More. And he's like, but are you a different animal? But the same beast? He goes, what the does that even mean, Kobe Bryant? It says, despite the box office success of Greta Gerwig's Barbie and Elizabeth Banks' Cocaine Bear, flag on the play, she doesn't get a pass because Charlie's Angels was such a bomb that this success, and I did love that movie, does not negate the fact that the movie before that was garbage. So the problem here is like these movies just happened. They can't make the changes yet. Like give them some time. So it says the female directors are not getting the same opportunities in Hollywood as their male counterparts. At the same time, major studios which pledged to re-examine their employment practices in the wake of the George Floyd murder failed to produce many films from people of color. I fail to understand what the death of someone of a black man in Minnesota has to do with making movies, but what do I know? What's funny about this is like we have this argument. I did this video recently where I made this point where I said Hollywood is business minded, and it was wrong on the face, because I do believe that Hollywood, when they look at these things, I do believe that they hire the people that they want because it's good for their stock price because of DEI and all of these things that are done through stakeholder capitalism, the way things are done that way. But they don't seem to be box office focused, right? But if they are as truly ideologically focused as they seem to be, why is it that they keep hiring white male directors when they could be just as much of a virtue signal behind the camera as they are in front of the camera?
Well, if we look at the highest grossing films of 2023, the majority of them are directed, and I would assume written as well, by white straight males, right?
But the thing is people keep saying they don't care about money anymore. All that matters is the message. If the message was all that truly mattered, then they would just not be hiring any white dudes anymore. Or is it simply the fact that there's more to it than just the race and the skin color? Who you know in the industry matters. Your connections matter. Your legacy matters, as much as they want to pretend that it doesn't. And also between women and men, it's a matter of career choice. Like there are just less women that choose to go into these professions than there are men.
I think that's true for the white male directors that have a legacy, like the Steven Spielbergs, the Christopher Nolan.
But even think of like a James Gunn.
There's a closed door to any new director or filmmaker who wants to enter the industry. and have a project. There's an open door for anyone who fits into a minority group.
Who is the youngest director, like white male director, like James Gunn, like the youngest, like continually successful white male?
Maybe it's just the gray hair, but isn't he?
I mean, but he's younger than Steven Spielberg though by a couple of decades.
Is he in his 50s or his?
He's probably in his 50s, right? So like what? You've got like a Sam Raimi, he's probably in his 50s. You've got these directors, but like younger than that, you've got Matt Reeves is successful. Okay. They are there, and the studios do. So I guess maybe just the message in front of the movie. I literally was like, so is the argument here that we want to push the message, but to push the message successfully, we have to hire white men to do it, which would be extremely ironic.
The female directors also have a responsibility, if they want equal opportunity, to make movies that aren't just about women and women issues.
Yes, well, and
so,
that's the thing. White
Greta
men
Gerwig making Barbie, it's a feminism movie. She also made Little Women. She also made Lady Bird. There's, other things like the Woman King, women talking. Why is everything about women? Just make a normal movie, and you'll get praised for your skill in directing a movie, and not about your ability to push a message.
Elizabeth Banks made Cocaine Bear, which is successful. Yeah. Charlie's Angels flopped. Because Cocaine Bear was fun and had nothing to do with women.
Yeah.
Right? The other thing that's funny about this is like when you really think about it, like do they really just need the white dudes to be the ones that push this message because they seem to be the only ones who know how to do it successfully to the masses. Also, when a white dude is hired to make a movie, he's not making, they can hire him to do anything other than making a movie about a white dude, because there's no actual movies about just that topic, right? A movie about women is a movie about women. I guess you could you could say he's making a movie about men. Fine, but
there's baggage with other.
Christopher Priest is a comic book writer who used to get all of these jobs writing all sorts of characters. He wrote Daredevil, he wrote all these Punisher, all these characters. But then when the industry turned and they started hiring less for merit and more for identity, here is this really talented comic book writer who is being told, we have to have you write Black Panther. It's like, I don't want to write Black Panther. Like, I want to write something that requires me to do research, to actually, it's not about my lived experience, about if I'm doing my job as a writer, then I can write about anything. Right?
Right.
So, and even Greta Gerwig didn't write Barbie wholly by herself. Her husband helped write the movie with her. It's also funny because they make a point of saying that 4.5% of directors of the top 100 movies in 2018, it was 4.5% were women. And in 2023, 12.1% were women. And they listed that as not a substantial growth when that's more than double. Like, did you want it to just jump from like 4 to 50 in like
instantly
4 years?
Yeah.
That's never going to happen.
I also think that to be a director, you need to have like tyrannical, authoritarian personality traits.
Kino Corner talked about this when he was here.
That comes naturally to men and not women.
Yeah.
So surprise, surprise, men and women are different. This is like the fundamental truth that is, being rejected, and the rejection of that truth is destroying society, and it's destroying our cultural output.
Olivia Wilde, when she was talking about making Don't Worry Darling, she directed Don't Worry Darling, said, oh, it was so collaborative. And it was so it wasn't like I was just the only one in charge. I'm like, that's not going to
and that's not the goal.
No, it's not. If you're trying to promote, the reason a Christopher Nolan movie works is because a man with a singular vision is putting that vision together and, in a lot of ways, tyrannically making sure that it comes out exactly as it needs to come out. Certainly when it fails, but when it works really well, it works really well. But the problem is everything at these studios now is done by committee. 30,000 writers, 10 different departments who are telling you whether it's socially acceptable to make it this way. And you've watered down your art because you're judging, you're directing, you're writing, and you're making these things based on the idea that 10,000 people can come up with a better vision than one singular artistic person, which isn't true.
Who was the chick that directed the Marvels?
Nia DaCosta.
Nia DaCosta. They made this big to-do about, we found a black woman to direct a Marvel movie. Aren't we so great? Pat us on the back. But then when you actually read her interviews, you see that she didn't know what was going on most of the time. And they were like, just trust the process. We'll deal with it later.
Well, and
the movie bombed.
And the movie bombed.
They did the same thing with the lady who directed or who helped direct the Black Widow, where she's like, well, I want to do the fight scenes. They're like, we'll take care of that.
Right. They don't actually afford the Marvel directors a lot of individual power, which is I would assume is one of the factors in why they're turning out so shitty.
Maybe women don't want to direct movies.
Oh yeah, by the way,
Yeah,
just like,
maybe we should consider what women want.
season 2 for Rings of Power, all female directing team. I think they just committed to the bit. They're like, look, everybody hates this crap anyways. Let's just make it worse.
Let's just go as hard as possible.
Given that I'm not like a huge Lord of the Rings buff, I can actually appreciate like the willing to, like, if we're gonna bring this ship down, we're gonna bring it down tremendously.
Blocked Peter Jackson's number and told him to F off.
So they found that of 116 directors that were attached to 100 top grossing films in 2023, 14% were 14 of them were women. 9% of top grossing films were directed by women in 2022, but that report argues that the percentage of them in 2022 was lower because they had not changed only because they hadn't put new ideas into process yet. They hadn't started working on all of these new initiatives until after that started, right? So it says Universal hired 4 female directors, a high among distributors. That was followed by Lionsgate and Disney. Hey, Universal was the #1 studio this year, so maybe they've got an argument there, though I don't think they directed the movies that did really, really well, but you can make that argument there. Across the last 17 years, a total of 27 women, 9.2%, have been hired by Universal Pictures to direct a major theatrical release. That was followed by Warner Brothers at 6%, Sony at 6%, Walt Disney at just 6% as well. So that's not very progressive of Disney, given all that they seem to be pushing these days.
They're getting sued right now
Yep.
for discrimination against all of their female employees.
It's okay. This was the other one. So it says they also found that 26 directors, 22% of the top 100 grossing movies in 2023 were from underrepresented racial and ethnic groups. 14 of them were Asian, which came to 53%. 8 are black, which came to 30%. 2 are Hispanic, 7%, and 2 other filmmakers are multiracial, multi-ethnic. And first of all, it's just. It's like, have you seen what's going on with Claudine Gay? The president of Harvard, she resigned, and people are arguing about it on the internet, extensively about, first of all, whether she should have resigned at all. I don't remember who it was that was saying the next person who takes over Harvard must be a black woman. I think Ibram X. Kendi might have been the one who said that.
Was she a black woman?
She was a black woman, right? So, and then in the same breath, somebody else was like, when people said that, it was either Ibram X. Kendi or Mark Lamont Hill or whoever it was. And then people were like, oh yeah, Candace Owens would be great. Oh yeah, Carol Swain would be great because Carol Swain is the one who Claudine Gay.
They're like, no, not like that.
No, and he goes, these people are acting like black people are all a monolith. And they're like, you literally just said that the only qualification they need to have is to be a black woman. Right? Which is not a recipe for sincerity. And that's the #1 thing to take away from this, is that when you put demands on people based on these types of ideas, it's not a recipe for sincerity. It's not a recipe for honest change. Look, maybe this year with Greta Gerwig directing the biggest movie of the year and the woman who directed FNAF, Five Nights at Freddy's, also being a woman, maybe you'll start to see some change for those actors. But it can't be done based on just the fact that they're women. The fact that their sex organs don't dangle has nothing to do with whether they're good at their job or not. And some of these women have to start speaking up for the idea of actually putting merit.
Brett, some people would say that whether or not their sex organs dangle has nothing to do with whether they're women.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. I mean, that's how they could fix all this. It's just how, like, Steven Spielberg just comes to Stephanie Spielberg, and we just go on.
Well, the Wachowski sisters.
Yes. I mean, there's a fantastic example, right? Is actually talented directors. Look, the V for Vendetta is one of my favorite movies of all time, right? I think that they were still the Wachowski siblings at the time.
I think one was a sister and one was a brother.
And it's none of this is a recipe for actual sincerity, because a business can't be sincere. At least I don't really believe that businesses have the ability to be inherently sincere, because at a certain point I have to wonder, are we right and they're inherently completely ideological, as so many have said, or do they secretly actually want these things to do good and they just don't know how to do it right without at least halfway virtue signaling?
If they could have it their way, they'd have their cake and eat it too. But that's not possible.
They don't even know what they want their way to be.
Also, they never
don't know what it is.
They're never willing to do it with, like, sure, Marvel is a crap factory with garbage that they can just shovel out to you and people will just take it, right? So they can hire whoever they want. Fine.
You can slap
But
the name of
they're
a black female director on whatever.
They're
and
never going to do that with Dune.
Yeah.
They're not. They're going to give Denis Villeneuve the movie because Denis Villeneuve has a long history of successful projects.
They actually care about the outcome.
Yes. They're not going to do it with this. Like, Oppenheimer was never getting made by Nia DaCosta. Ever in a million years. And that is not because Universal was racist. It's because they wanted the movie to make money, and Christopher Nolan has a reputation and can actually deliver on what he's doing. There are female directors. Like, television is a space where there's plenty of actually talented female directors. Like, if you go watch the average television show and you watch a show that was successful in the early 2000s, or like, you're not gonna get a lot of them, but you're gonna see a hell of a lot more female directors than you were at the big budget cinema level. Right? And that's because back then they succeeded based on the merit, the ability to do their job well and get rehired and get more work.
And I wonder if it's less time consuming to direct a TV show than a movie.
Well,
like, women are more, they have kids. They are kind of typically more the ones taking care of the kids.
Not actually,
and the family,
less so because they're always working. Because
I
you're
guess
going from show to show, 2 to 3 episodes
being
a
a
year
TV
on
director
show.
is more of a job.
Yes.
Right.
More stable.
But
if you're good at
I would
it.
say that this goes for feminism and its hypocrisy as a whole. When there was the feminist push to have women in the workplace, it was never about having women representation in blue collar jobs. It wasn't about them working at sewage plants or driving garbage trucks or
Construction
welding
jobs,
or whatever. It was never about that. It was about having women in white collar jobs that were cushy and had air conditioning. And the same thing goes for Hollywood, where they're not talking about equal representation for women who construct sets or actually or doing camera work or whatever like that. It's about the female directors who really get the clout.
It's the CEO of that part of the job.
The ones who get to pal around with Margot Robbie and go to red carpets.
They do talk about, like, the writers' rooms. We got to have so many women on the writing team. It would be interesting to see them try to employ something where, like, as a thought exercise. And it would work. It would be like a really funny way of, like, backing them into a corner. It's like, okay, here's the thing. Guys, you can't write it like white men. You can't write about being white men. Women, you can't write about being white or black women, whatever it is. And, like, the white men, it won't change anything because there's no stories that are actually just written about being a white dude anyways. So it would force everyone to actually have to write about something other than what they're just self-inserting themselves into these stories anyways.
Well, you see Greta Gerwig wrote Ken into Barbie, and the way that all of these feminists would write male characters is that everything comes to them easily and they're, what did you say? Born on third base.
Yes. It was a quote about George Bush. Born on third base, thought he hit a triple.
I don't know. But you're right, Sarah. Like, women don't want to be directors.
I think that's what it is.
If women wanted to be directors, there would be equal representation for women as film directors.
Especially if they were good at it. If they were good at it, Hollywood, this is kind of what I'm saying. It's the opposite version of, like, us saying, like, we don't want to hate the movies. We want to like the movies, but they just happen to suck. If they were actually good, they want to hire female directors. If the women were making great movies and television shows, they would be more inclined to do it because it would work for all parties involved. It's not an inherent level of sexism, though I'm sure there is plenty of that from certain people at the studio level, right? A misogynist industry doesn't just change overnight. I'm sure there's plenty of that.
Is Hollywood misogynist anymore?
I'm sure plenty
in
of
2024 now?
I mean, if there's all these people R-wording women, then yes, I would say there's still plenty of misogyny.
I think
that's just
the
degeneracy.
World. I think that's just kind of how the world is at the end of the day.
Yeah, and if the women in Hollywood are just as willing to leverage their sexuality as the men are willing to leverage their power and resources to get sex, then it's just an all-out degeneracy problem in Hollywood, not a misogyny problem.
Woden Shot says, self-inserting yourself is redundant, Brett. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. None of these studies, and it's to Mary's point earlier, like, look, It's not ever going to be solved. It's never a problem that can ever be fixed. When I was looking at this stuff about Claudine Gay, plenty of the people were saying like nothing can be changed until everybody starts on absolutely the exact same footing. You have to all start from the same place. So that means nobody can come into the world with any more money than anyone else. Everyone has to live in the exact same socioeconomic situation. It's not possible.
It's
not feasible.
That's actually not the goal. Like, I guess the end goal is really that every white straight male has to live in a box.
Yes.
And beg for change on the street and get like kicked. That's really the goal. It's not equal footing.
As long as these studios,
the white men have to be completely ostracized from society.
But as long as these studios still need to at least make some of their money back, they're going to have to still keep hiring the white directors.
Yeah. But they're clearly not interested in making a profit anymore.
So it says the study authors note that there are drawbacks to measuring hiring in terms of box office receipts. Some films released towards the end of 2023 don't have enough time to gross enough money to be included in the list. Well, why didn't you make that same point as to why movies that just came out this year can't be representative of change? Have to be representative of change that hasn't happened yet. Mm-hmm. You're defeating your own point. Those movies that they did well on might inspire them to greenlight more things with women, but they have to actually do that first. And there was just a writer's strike and an actor's strike, so there was a freeze put on greenlighting new projects. It's inherently dishonest, and I don't like it. It says, this report offers a contrast to those who might celebrate the dawning of the change of Hollywood. After a year in which Barbie topped the box office, the studio authors write, one film or one director are simply not enough to create the sea of change that is still needed behind the camera. Until studio executives and producers alter the way they make decisions about who is qualified and available to work as... You haven't even told me what the hell it means to be qualified. Mm-hmm. There isn't
your personal life experiences of being oppressed make you qualified to be a good storyteller. Apparently,
it's stupid and they're dishonest.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to super chats.
Shane H. Wilder said Dave is in his later George Carlin arc. I assume you mean Dave Font. What does that mean?
Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle.
Chappelle.
Oh, not Dave Font. Okay. Disco Jensen, Corey Anderson said. Mm-hmm. You can just call me by my first name. Okay, Corey, I'll call you that. Shane H. Wilder said, we used to have a term for adults that tried to get kids to do adult things. And we wonder why these child actors become effed up adults.
Yep. Yeah. Let's do one more.
T-Dog said, why did Mary say she wouldn't review Bottoms?
I'm just not going to see it.
Well, I mean, wasn't that in theaters like many months ago?
Long time ago.
And we were never planning on reviewing it anyway.
All right, let's come back to the rest. Guys, let's get a third crisis party, huh? Let's do that. All right, Mary, so apparently Gen Z is now aging faster than millennials.
Yes, at least according to experts, Gen Z is aging faster than millennials, and they have a few reasons that they theorize why this is happening. First of all, a love of vaping. Lots of nicotine use in the late teens and early 20s.
I buy this reason because my generation was that generation that got really hit with like Target Market, and there was no like alternatives, right? Mm-hmm. So like there was no vaping, there was no...
Well, right. I thought it was smoking that was bad for your skin, not vaping. Right?
Is that different?
Isn't it? I think it's the smoke itself that dries you out.
Right.
So it's like even if you vape, it's like just that vapor around your face can like dry out your skin.
It can, but it's vapor. I don't know. I don't vape, so I don't know how this works.
In the chat, Ben says, "We talking physical degradation or emotional maturity?" We're talking physical.
Physically, yeah, their physical appearance. This title says, "Why are Gen Z aging so differently to millennials?" Experts reveal pressure to use the wrong skincare too young, vaping, and getting Botox in their early 20s. Mean younger generations look older than those in their 30s. As Sarah said before we were on air, this article was probably written by a millennial who wants to praise millennials. So they're calling Botox in your early 20s a tweakment, which I haven't heard that term before. I guess when millennials were in their early 20s, it wasn't as accessible or pop culturally relevant to get Botox and get face fillers.
Yeah.
But now that Gen Z is growing up and becoming financially independent, all they see when they open their phone is surgically and cosmetically altered faces.
Yeah.
And filters.
And filters. And just deceptive photos in general. And that's warping their perspective of what they should look like.
Right.
I definitely would buy that Gen Z has a worse self-image problem than millennials do.
Millennials didn't have the same social media pressure that came for, I mean, there was still plenty of pressure, I guess, amongst
Didn't Kylie Jenner get like 10 plastic surgeries when she was 17? Like her lips,
For millennials,
her boobs, her face.
The pressures that were on millennials were things that you actually could control. Like the trendy body type in the 90s and the 2000s was being heroin chic skinny, right? You just lose weight.
Just have eating
And that's all you
disorders,
really need
right?
to do. I'm not saying that's
Generation.
healthy, but at least it's attainable without going under the knife.
If it was vaping, wouldn't we like, I feel like seeing the results this quick would be, like, wouldn't it take some
Shocking.
years for that to actually play a role? Vaping hasn't been around that long.
The youngest Gen Z is born in 2012.
Okay.
So I guess there's
They're saying it's
definitely
between 98
more
to
time that we'll
2012.
need
I
to
don't
see
know if
how
I
this goes.
buy. I don't know if I buy the Botox argument because that just seems like something that's more accessible for people with money than like. It
It's,
doesn't-
actually,
it's
it's
getting
not.
more and more
It's-
accessible to the middle
And
class.
I
Oh,
think
is it?
that's their whole point.
might have
is
to
it's
go get
way
my
cheaper now.
might have to go get some cheek fillers then soon here.
Brett, you're beautiful as
I
you
might have
are.
to get my chin shaved down.
You
like
look-
Matt Rife.
You look younger than your age,
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
so I guess that bears out.
Very luckily, like my dad's like in his late 70s and doesn't like looks like he's in his 50s. So hopefully that stays true. And hopefully like I had my rough patch with all the drugs early enough that it didn't do too much to force me to age faster.
Bounce back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was interesting. Influencer Jessie Greenwood, who is almost 40, said she gets told all the time that she doesn't look her age. She thinks it's because normal aging is a result of patriarchal oppression.
That's what it is.
And she
So-
says millennial women have, quote, protected their energy more.
Wait, wouldn't Gen Z
From
be
the
the ones
patriarchy.
who are? I guess no. It would be the millennial women who are really fighting the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Not having babies. Oh, maybe it's because millennials don't have kids.
Oh, that's
Does
a
Gen
good
Z have
point.
more
But
kids?
Gen
though?
Z doesn't have kids either.
Yeah.
Is the birth? Yeah, I guess.
But I mean, probably having children, that adds to the stressors in your life, so you might age faster.
That doesn't
with stress.
explain why we're gonna watch these videos of millennials of like 80s and 90s kids in high school looking
Well,
like they're adults when they haven't had kids yet either. At least I'm
Here,
assuming they didn't have kids yet.
open the article and show these celebrity comparisons.
see.
They have Millie Bobby Brown side by side with
I don't even know if
Avril
celebrity
Lavigne.
examples are fair because they're all wearing
Yeah.
more makeup than the average person.
So here's Emma Chamberlain compared with Taylor Swift. Emma Chamberlain is 22.
She
Taylor
looks
Swift is
awful.
34.
I'm sorry. She's not aging well.
No,
yeah.
she's not.
I
But
don't think that's a Gen Z thing.
yeah, I wouldn't say that's representative of Gen Z necessarily. And
Emma
celebrities and
Chamberlain-
influencers don't represent the general population.
She also looks like you just forgot to pick up the groceries again that she asked you to get on the way home, and she's really upset with you, which doesn't help.
And then lower you see Millie Bobby Brown, who is 19, compared with Avril Lavigne, who is 39. Millie Bobby Brown, since she was like 14 and 15, has been styled in a way that I find incredibly inappropriate for her age, both in what she wears and just the heavy makeup that they've put on her.
Very porny to me.
It's just, it never seemed like she was, styled in a way that she looked her age anyway.
It would only be fair to do these comparisons in like same lighting, same photographer, same focal
Yeah,
length.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but then Kylie Jenner, and comparing her with Kim Kardashian, Kylie does look older than someone who was born in 1997.
Yeah.
And when you see her without makeup on in social media clips and stuff, she's just kind of
Wait, this
destroyed her
dude's
face
rough.
with
this
fillers.
dude on the right is 33.
That's crazy. Wow. He looks 12. And then Jack Harlow is 25.
Jack Harlow would probably look the same if he shaved.
Well, the reality is if you get fillers in your face, like the doctors who give you the fillers aren't going to tell you this, but it stretches out your skin. So you have to continue getting fillers and increase the amount every time because your skin elasticity is decreasing as well. And then you end up, if you continue on that cycle, looking like Madonna, which no one wants.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know you have to keep getting more and more. And
it migrates. It doesn't fully leave your body and you're just injecting yourself with toxins all the time. I mean, that's literally what Botox is. Tox stands for toxin. It actually is a lethal chemical in the right amount. Alex Earle is one of these examples for Gen Z. She's 22. The good thing about Gen Z, I think, is that they're at least a little more honest about getting cosmetic procedures than the millennials would be.
It's because
Alex Earle has a reputation for that.
There isn't the stigma around it that there used to be.
Is it possible they've both gotten the same amount of work? It's just that it doesn't look good on you when you're too young.
Right. Yeah.
Like Kim Kardashian, that's not her real face. Let's be honest.
It's all going to be like a shit show when these people are in their 80s.
I can't wait.
Billie Eilish is 21 and Sarah Hyland is, I guess,
33. Sarah Hyland is 33.
Okay, so
yeah.
Sabrina Carpenter.
They're choosing bad pictures.
As much as I hate Sabrina Carpenter, she is gloriously skinny and attractive. So I need more of that and less Lizzo, more Sarah Carpenter.
But this isn't. Yeah, Selena Gomez, as an example of someone in her 30s who looks younger than her age, doesn't land for me. She, in other photos, looks completely unrecognizable from how she looked in her teens and 20s.
Yeah.
She's like actually one of the worst examples of going too far with the cosmetic procedures.
Aging well, but I wonder if it's because she had that disease.
Lupus or something?
Yeah.
I don't remember. But I really disagree with the entire premise.
Wow, they used Bianca Lawson as an example?
I mean, this is why I disagree with this article. When you look at all of these nostalgia videos of like high school grads from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, every time that those get posted, all of the comments are saying, look at how adult these teenagers look, like compared to the way that teenagers look today. And like you could chalk it up to hard living, but
for the ones in the 80s, they were all working very hard to destroy the ozone layer with the hairspray.
With the hairspray, yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't have vapes, so they were just stuck with cigarettes.
Yeah.
Cigarettes and hairspray. It's amazing that more houses didn't explode.
Yeah. I mean, maybe part of this could be that Gen Z is drinking less alcohol as well. Less than the millennials by far, but that also has its own negative reason because they're socializing less.
I was talking to someone recently about, I was like, bro, the women that I went to high school with were psychopaths. They just walked around with water bottles of vodka.
Oh gosh.
Like
that, yeah, is that a common thing?
I've never heard of
when
that.
I was in high school, there was more than a few kids who
were they Russian?
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically in Minnesota, which is basically Canada.
There was a blonde skew to the ones who drank alcohol at school.
It was cold. How else were they going to stay warm?
It's just like in Russia,
Yeah.
Like it's like we at least waited till
Minnesota is the Russia of America.
That is for the most part.
Confirmed.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Let's watch this video of the 1989.
Yeah, I'm
because that's the
curious
most
to
drastic
see this.
example. Here we go. I have to mute the thing because it's, of course, they all have copyrighted music.
But I do wish I could hear what they were talking about. And like, look at the hair.
Do you think it's the fuzzy camera?
Also, the camera plays a huge role in this.
And what they're wearing also is stuff that reminds you of the way older people dress.
You know what it is too with the guys? The fitness used to be taken way more seriously. So I think the guys were more masculine, which may make them look older.
Let's refresh this. It wasn't playing correctly there. Let's try this again.
Yeah, I mean, we know that testosterone levels in men have depleted drastically in the last 50 years.
The hair is. Doesn't hair?
She looks like a child. Sorry.
Doesn't hair fall out sooner if you have really high testosterone?
I think. Yeah.
I don't think so. I have no idea. I would think it's the opposite, but I am no expert. Great hair.
So these look like adults to me. They look far more adult than Gen Z teens do.
I feel like,
in my opinion.
Internet is,
I mean, like,
struggling
when
right
I
now.
look at TikToks, I think that 16-year-olds look way older now than they did before. But I don't know.
Here's 2000. This is my era, so this one's a
So
little
it's
bit more.
2002, I believe.
That poor kid's just like a foot short.
Yeah.
Was that other guy really tall or was he really short? All the shirts the women are wearing, it's the most like, it's the, that shirt. It's like every girl in high school wore the
The polo.
The polo. Looks like
Yeah.
looks like they work at a golf resort.
So what do you think? Do they look older than Gen Z does
But
now?
theoretically, those people could be aging like me, who looks supposedly younger than his age.
I guess it would be better to look like you're in your 20s in high school and stay that way.
Yes. Well, that's what I was saying. Like maybe for some of these, maybe Millie Bobby Brown, it just freezes.
Yeah.
And she just doesn't age for a very long time.
Maybe people are
Could
like
be.
just going through puberty later in life now.
Think about Joe.
That's true,
Who's the actress that
right?
I always bring up? Jennifer Beals, who's 60 something and looks like she's in her 40s. Or a Jennifer Connelly, who's in her 50s and looks like she's in her 30s because they've taken care of themselves.
I mean, if Gen Z is aging slower than previous generations, I would say there's no good reason that's happening. Like there's probably just, it's the poison that's in our water. It's the poison that's in our
Yeah, the
food.
puberty
It's the fact that they're
blockers.
not going outside. They're in their rooms scrolling on TikTok all day. They don't socialize. They don't drink. And, you know,
Not socializing isn't going to help you.
when I look at those videos, what strikes me more is that they look happier than today's teenagers
Yes,
do.
because
And
they don't have a
it's
phone
black
destroying
pill.
their life.
Yeah.
And like the way that they react to a camera being pointed at them is not how a teenager would react today.
Yeah, because there
at
wasn't
all.
there wasn't the threat that it was going to be used to destroy your life. back
Right.
then.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like this rare novel thing. And now, you know, today's teenagers, they don't want to be adults. They don't crave freedom or independence.
Here's Jennifer Beals at the age of 60.
Oh yeah. You always
Wow.
bring her up when we're talking about this type of stuff. She's like 56, isn't she?
No, she's now 60.
Stunning.
60,
And she's
and she hasn't aged a bit.
no, and if you look at her in Flashdance, she I don't know, she just it's
That's
kind
gotta
of-
be genetics.
It's kind of the same thing,
Yeah.
right? She actually looks like it froze for about 20 years, and then like the aging started to happen prematurely or like a little bit later after that. But some people are just gifted, are just born lucky to not. Also, taking care of yourself. Probably doesn't smoke, probably doesn't drink excessively. If it's a woman, she's doing a good skincare regimen, yoga, all of these things. Dina Meyer is an actress who's I believe in her 60s now or late 50s, and everything. She was in Starship Troopers. If you're looking for a reference for who she is as an actress, and all that she ever posts is like her at like dance classes, like jazz dance classes, and she talks about eating well and taking care of herself and being physically active every day. Well, that matters if you want to not look like life has just hit you in the head with a brick once you hit a certain age.
Yeah. I think that if anything is going to age Gen Z faster, it's how sad and depressed and anxious they are. It shows
Yes.
in your physical appearance when
And
you're...
that's because I truly believe that it's less of those external factors and it's your phone. I think
Yeah, and
it's,
being in front
I
of
think
a
it's being
screen
a
in
constant
general.
state of anxiety. Like they always like, how often do you hear people say, "I got gray hairs from this," right? That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Like I've had intermittent gray hairs during like on my beard in periods of time where it's extremely stressful and then they go away. But imagine now you're born into a world where that anxiety is omnipresent and
Yeah.
you're never able to get away from it. Why wouldn't you age faster?
Right. And they lived through 2020. Like, people, you know, they were so young when lockdowns happened. People were still in high school. So that could be aging you.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that the little thing, to believe that something as powerful as your phone with the internet wasn't going to have adverse effects on society, I think is really, really naive. And I think it's just been done in such a way where the water was turned up gradually that it's just not as noticeable. Like you said, you look at those videos from people in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, and you're just
Well, whenever those videos get posted as well, especially the ones from the 90s and the 2000s, people who were in high school in the 90s and 2000s reply to it and they say, actually, we were all miserable and dying inside, but we were smiling for the cameras. And
oh, shut up.
it really, we had to live through 9/11 and the 2008 crash, and and we were all miserable as hell. And they're being nihilistic for the sake of it. But the reality is that they were happier. I think teenagers were happier and less nihilistic in the 90s and the 2000s.
I mean, I can speak, I guess, in an anecdotal fashion and say, like, I guess I was also so focused on skating and traveling. I had something really, really important to me. Like, I started skating at the age of 12. And I still do so to this day. So I had something that was very, very important to me that took up the majority of my time and energy when I wasn't either in class or at work. But I don't look back on the 2008 financial crisis with this huge negative lens. Yeah. There's a line in the show, Dark Angel, where she's talking about, in the show, there's like an EMP attack and basically the world falls into a huge depression. Now remember, this is before cell phones, and she's basically biking around like a destroyed Seattle. So, Seattle now, but like in 2000, it probably wouldn't have looked like that. There's tents everywhere. There's people living on the streets. And she says, like, what I don't get is why they call it a depression. Sure, everyone's broke, but we aren't all actually all that depressed. So it's like back then, yeah, people were broke, but you weren't looking at the news all day on your phone and being constantly bombarded with fear porn 24/7. Your circumstances suck, but you dealt with them as they came. And I think that kind of helps with not aging super, super fast.
Yeah, but at the same time, Gen Z is living the most comfortable, cushy, seemingly luxurious lifestyle that any generation has ever had in human history. So they have everything that they could possibly want and nothing that a human being actually needs to flourish. And it's making them miserable, and maybe it's starting to show.
Yeah. I mean, it's also to point out, like, I graduated in 2005, so in 2008, I was still like pretending to care about college and traveling as much as I could for skating, and I had a decent job. It wasn't a career, but I had a job. But if you were if you were an older person, right, and you're trying to buy a house and you've got a family, you're going to look at that time period very, very differently. I think that's fair to say. Somebody pointed out in the chat. So, it's just I think the phones were a mistake. I'm gonna live and die on this. I think the internet was a mistake.
Brett says return to tradition.
Yes, in one such fashion. I think that the internet has destroyed the psyche of most young adults, and I think it's detrimental to society for all of the benefits and ease that it's given our lives. The damage that it's done to the general mental health of society can't go unmentioned.
Yeah, and if you think that it's doing a disservice to Gen Z, just watch what's going to happen to Gen Alpha as they enter the adult world. It's going to be a living nightmare. So let's just end on that black pill.
Fantastic. If anybody wants to save us from that black pill by helping us get to a third crisis party, I wouldn't say no to that.
Yeah. Pat the Plumber said, it would surprise me if Hollywood has another Barbie or Oppenheimer over the next 3 years.
Well, I mean, nothing that I saw last year or for the schedule for this year is that. But
nothing has the meme magic potential, from what I can tell.
I mean, but we wouldn't have said that those had the meme magic until it became what it was.
No, for Barbie, I definitely would see it.
Could they do Barbie 2 and Oppenheimer 2?
Please no.
Oppenheimer 2 would be sweet. Okay,
Well, if anything, they're gonna make like a spin-off movie that's about Oppenheimer's wife from her perspective. Yeah.
I think they just retell it from the position of those in Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Oh gosh. Or they could do the spin-off with the wife and then do a spin-off with Ken.
Or what they do,
make it Godzilla x Oppenheimer.
Yes, that was literally what I was about to say.
Oh my God.
Make an Oppenheimer expanded universe. Well, because people were making the jokes they'll make a science expanded universe, and it's a bunch of science movies, and the first phase ends on E=mc², the Albert Einstein movie. It would be fantastic.
There should be a Socrates movie.
That'd be hilarious.
There's a Feynman movie, all of these great thinkers of their time. You know, they could do that.
Yeah.
They could do that.
I like that idea.
The Undertaker said some things are written just for white men, Brent. They're called Father's Day cards. Ooh. Corey said, hey, coffee mommy.
Hey.
Yikes. I don't know if you want to reply to that term. Urashima Otaru said, vapor, i.e. water on your skin, dries it out faster.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
I mean, is it really a problem to call you coffee mommy? I do call the RV lady hot RV lady or hot RV mommy. So, you know, but she's literally a mom, so that's the point.
Well, do you think daddy is cringe?
Not a fan.
Yes, I think they're both cringe.
Right, exactly.
Disco Jensen said, kids are aging faster because innocence is being lost sooner. Society has fallen, and we are living through the collapse.
How is it? It's interesting that like we're both somehow like Gen Z is not losing they're losing their virginity later. They're not drinking alcohol at a younger age like they used to, but somehow the innocence is lost sooner, which is like.
It's because of porn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like all of the loss of innocence and none of the real world experience that came from that when you were like if you watch old movies and television, it was just accepted practice in movies and television that you lost your virginity at 16. That was what they always talked about it in movies. Like that was the
Which
general
is,
accepted age.
I mean, that's kind of what they portrayed in Euphoria when all of these millennials were like, how do we make a show that relates to the experiences of Gen Z? And you're portraying something that is not at all relatable to Gen Z.
Are they? Are they not like permanently on their phones, constantly anxious, and really, really worried about stuff that doesn't matter?
No, they were, going out in club outfits, partying, drinking, and having orgies.
What generation?
It's not really what Gen Z does.
Was there any generation doing that?
Doing what?
Like living life as they do on Euphoria? Because I don't think my generation was.
They were talking, I did see a trend going around. They said, why did all millennial women go to clubs wearing like work attire?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's better than whatever the hell is going on now. Like, they're wearing loincloths.
Business sexual was always good.
Yeah.
I pray for the return of pencil skirts, ladies and
Club business casual. The Undertaker said smoking and vaping introduce chemicals into the bloodstream which impair the ability your cells have to repair themselves. The vapor is just a medium.
I suppose it's also for like I never smoked cigarettes, which also probably for me helped a lot. Like never had that to age.
At least with a cigarette though, you have to actually go outside and do it. With vaping, people can just do
and
it 24/7.
And it also can be communal. Like smoking socially is a thing. And for vaping, it's just like, this is what I do when I wake up at 8 a.m. For them, at least. The Manic Mustache said, if women want white collar jobs, there is plenty of air conditioning in the kitchen. Happy belated Christmas.
So why is it then, like, I notice a lot that there's a lot of male makeup visual effects artists in Hollywood. Like that's an industry that there's a lot of men that work in Hollywood.
Well, they're all gay, pretty much.
But like, it's kind of like one day, like straight men are going to have to just start like taking over jobs at Sephora to really show women
they
what they're
are.
going through.
Brett, have you been to a Sephora?
I'm saying,
they are doing that.
Like, but are they straight men though?
No.
It's just like
straight men are going to have to do that.
Okay. It's like how most chefs are women, but the best chefs in the world are men. Yeah. Like at the end, they've already done
most
it.
cooks are women, right? But the chefs are men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're.
I mean, is that
they professionalize?
Like, I feel like if are we talking like your average like line cook at a restaurant? Because that's men.
I mean, like home. Cooking at home.
I mean, who are the most famous chefs right now?
Gordon Ramsay.
That you think of?
I don't know even know any.
Wolfgang Puck.
I only ever remember Emerald.
That's a great one.
Is that a great one?
Yeah. Andrew Gruel. I don't even know any other female chefs anymore. What, Paula Deen? Is she still around?
She got in trouble for
She got canceled, but she's still around.
Yeah.
Pat the plumber said, I vape, my skin is baby soft, and I look cool AF. I'm 40 though, LOL.
But it's also
we're gonna need proof.
There are women, however, who like Rachel Ray, or these women that make like careers out of being on the cover of those magazines that nobody buys at the store.
Yeah.
I'll still over the holiday break I saw what was it, Weiss? There was the Taylor Swift holding the baking goods thing. It looked even faker in person.
Yeah.
Like somehow it looked even less.
You've never made a cupcake in your life.
It looked even less real on like in person. I'm like, wow.
It's like, what
I think
is
she doesn't even
this?
look like she knows how to hold that thing. Like. Yeah.
Not that Jon Stewart said, the 80s, hairspray, cigarettes, and weak weed.
Yeah, that's the real reason that they all look older. We are very close to a third crisis party. Let's do this.
Shane H. Wilder said a coworker came back after Christmas with fillers that made her look like a melted doll. Her boyfriend got it for her to make her look prettier.
Oh, so much
What
toxic.
is your thought
toxicity.
on? I saw someone talking about
Gross.
women who get breast implants for their partner as a gift to their partner.
Wait,
That's
what?
like a thing where people talked
I've
about
heard of
like,
that.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, did you really?
I mean, if a guy is like pushing his wife or whatever to do that, that probably means he's kind of a scumbag.
See, but I don't know if I actually buy that.
But
the
it's
guy's
more
doing
for-
that.
I don't-
She's doing it for herself, and she wants to come up with a socially acceptable
Yeah.
reason as to why she got it.
You mean she's doing it to be attractive to men in general, but she's saying it's to be more attractive to her husband?
They did like an episode of House that did that, and I always thought that was just a very TV cliche. But I saw people online actually talking about it.
I couldn't imagine going around day to day with silicone inside my body. I just couldn't imagine it.
Also, I thought that the resounding consensus from men is that they don't like the way fillers look. They don't like the way Botox looks.
But when
So it's very puzzling that you're saying this guy got his girlfriend fillers to make her look prettier. That does sound like a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Christina said, graduated in 04, can confirm, knew multiple girls who water bottle vodka.
dude, it was crazy. I was like, what is that? It's like, look,
And it was like full.
yeah,
Like on a regular basis?
on a regular basis.
Are they okay now?
I'm
Probably not.
No, they probably are, because a lot of them they got their hard living out of the way in high school. It was boring by the time they got older. So
guess.
It's like, if you've already graduated, no pun intended, to like water bottles of vodka in high school, maybe there's nowhere to go but up after that. Like everything else just seems boring. But like for me, like I was like, it's just funny because it wasn't fooling anyone except the oblivious teachers. They open the bottle and you can just smell it all through the back of the classroom. And you're like, like your handwriting is just.
You were like getting secondhand drunk.
Yeah.
The Manic Mustache said, I was built by beer on the nice side of town when I was 14. Got a lot of mileages out of my BFF, the mustache. You had a mustache when you were 14?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Damn. Bucky Ducky said, I'd love to watch Godzillaheimer. See? We have the ideas.
Oppenzilla.
Yeah. Corey Anderson said, Brett Cooper is news mommy. Sarah, with an H in this one, is coffee mommy. No cringe. I think there's some cringe. And then Bucky Ducky said, mommy, daddy is much cringe, Brett.
Does that mean
And
that,
I fully agree.
Well, like, who are some other anecdotal examples of this? Who else would be? If Brett Cooper is officially news mommy, then there's got to be more than that.
I would prefer to be blissfully ignorant.
Okay.
Yeah. I could name a few, but I won't.
Okay. Can you read the rest? They're not showing up for me.
Miss Ray says late 90s, he was hell. Also,
High school was hell.
Oh, I can't. Looks like he's was hell. Also, Mary, can you please straighten your collar?
Oh.
I want you to.
There.
There you go.
Has it been bothering you for hours?
Yes, people in the chat were like,
hope
it's,
so.
it's crooked.
Sorry.
She did it purposely to upset you guys.
Yes.
Pat the Plumber says, I'll send proof on Instagram. Let's go. Well, thank you. Proof of what?
His skin being flawless?
No.
Is this the same guy?
Being baby-faced at
Baby-faced.
40.
Yeah. Drop
good
the
thing.
skin.
All thanks to vape.
All right, guys. I still want that for that third crisis party before we go, but we'll wait for you guys on that. All right. Before we go, would you hit the like button on this video? Subscribe to this channel if you have not gotten subscribed already. We are getting very close to 100,000 subscribers, guys. We have passed 91,000. I'm getting very anxious now. I want to see it happen in the next month or so. It would be fantastic if we could do that. And yeah, Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me back. Check us out on castbrew.com. Follow us on Instagram, castbrew_coffee, or on X at castbrewcoffee. We have the Alex Stein blend coming out really soon. Hopefully sooner rather than later. And we have an awesome commercial we shot with him coming out as well with it. So
Perfect.
thanks.
All right, we got one more here from Irishima Utaru. It says, mommy stuff is tarded
Unless you are 4.
unless you're 4.
Yeah.
Mary, where can they find you?
You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived.
Now we're just going to sit here quietly until we
That's
get
okay.
that third crisis party. So how you guys doing today? Good?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was
Oh.
it being back?
I was
We're
worried.
getting back
at
into the
first.
swing of things.
Yeah.
I was worried at first. I was like, am I even going to remember how to do my job? I'm like in here. I'm like, I look at the stream deck. I'm like, button, push the button. And
You
like,
have to hit them with your elbow now.
Yeah, like I was struggling at first. Like, and like when we tried to like set up the stream yesterday, like it did this weird thing where it wouldn't let me schedule it. And I'm like, I have forgotten how to do my job. It's not good. We got one here from Corey Anderson. Says Kara is email mommy and Sarah is gamer mommy.
Stop with this nonsense. No.
Shane H. Wilder says, can we stop with the mommy and daddy stuff? I can't even
Please.
say, damn it, Cody, it's not his fault today.
Yeah.
Urashima Utaru is correct, says the Undertaker. No grown man should say mommy or daddy.
Agreed.
Agreed? Yes? All right.
Yes.
One more from the Manic Mustache says, had the mustache at 12, grew to 5'6" to complete the grift at 13.
The grift.
That's awesome.
One more here from Bucky Ducky. He says, Mary, why do you keep asking for hate on Twix, then going surprise Pikachu face when you're going to get hate on Twix? Well, she's not getting the hate from people that actually watch the show.
That's probably the case. The people who are hating on Twix are not watching PCC. Thank you for the third crisis party.
Let's go.
Thank you so much, guys. That's fantastic. All right. Oh, we got one more here from Bucky Ducky. Says, the multiverse of mommies needs to stop. Mommy multiverse of
second
madness. Let's go.
No.
All right, guys. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twix. At Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. One more here from Coriander says, Brett is dad mommy. I don't even know what that means.
What?
Too far.
I don't even know what that
How
means.
about instead of let's go, we make let's know a thing?
Let's know? Let's know? Yes, guys, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. PCC is here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon Pacific. It's just so fantastic to be back, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to listen rather than watch this show, we are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. And if you'd like to follow the show on social media, we are on Twix at popculture_show, Facebook and TikTok at Pop Culture Crisis, Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Guys, we will be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.